Chapter 194. Gu Yunshu's worry. The carriage stopped in front of the Zhang family's house. The 6 members of the Tong family alighted one by one. They looked up and saw the dilapidated mud brick house in front of them. Even though they were mentally prepared, they still found it unbelievable. Especially after Gu Yundong brought them into the courtyard and they saw the narrow road with the low courtyard walls, they looked at each other. The master's house was actually like this? The Tong family really could not understand. The master had spent so much money on them. Why did she not use it to repair the house? Until Gu Yundong said to them, "Our house has just been built. We can only move in the day after tomorrow. Well, make do here for the next 2 days. The men will squeeze in the Shao family next door first, and the women will stay here. This is Auntie Dong. This is her home. Auntie Dong has already helped pack your room. Go take a look and put down your luggage." Dong Xilan knew that she had gone out early in the morning to buy people, so she quickly tidied up the unoccupied room in her house. The Shao family could also vacate a room, so they could arrange it. The Tong family hurriedly nodded. After Gu Yundong introduced the others, the women followed Dong Xilan into the house, and the man followed Shao Qingyuan to the next room. When they went out, they happened to see the Gu family's green brick-tiled house. All of them were a little surprised. They did not expect such a house to exist in the countryside. They wondered who lived inside. The Tong family were all people with work to do in their eyes. Especially when they were in an unfamiliar place, they were more or less trembling in fear. Therefore, as soon as they put down their things, they immediately came out to help chop firewood, fetch water, and cook dinner. Dinner was quite sumptuous. After all, there were more people in the house and they had earned more money. It was something to celebrate. During dinner, Gu Yundong mentioned that there was an additional shop in the house. The Zhang family was very surprised. "You have a shop. Where is it? How big is it? Are you planning to sell white sugar?" Gu Yundong nodded. "It's used to sell white sugar. It's in the east of the city. However, the shop hasn't been vacated yet. It can only be used in a few days. When the time comes, you'll have to ask Uncle Feng to help change the layout inside. When it opens, everyone will join in the fun." Madame Dong was very happy. "All right, I'll definitely go." Gu Yunshu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had been worried that his family would run out of money after buying servants. He had been debating the entire day whether he should owe the teacher his tuition fees first and pay them in a few years. Now that he heard from his eldest sister that his family had a shop and a source of income, there was no problem. Gu Yunshu was relieved. He had an extra big bowl of food for dinner. Gu Yundong turned around and saw the expression on his face. She suddenly had a headache. Why did her brother think that his family was so poor that they could not even pay his tuition? She clearly acted like she was rich. If he was worried at such a young age, he might not grow up tall in the future. After dinner, the Tong family members began to clean up. Gu Yundong returned to her room. After a while, she came out with the bag she had brought back from the county. Everyone was busy and did not see her. Gu Yundong came out of the Zhang family's back door and went straight to the next door. Shao Qingyuan was feeding the horses. The Lu family's carriage was temporarily resting at his house. Lu Wei had said that he could return it when he was free. When he saw Gu Yundong enter, he was slightly stunned and could not help but stop what he was doing. Chapter 195. The clothes are gifted. Gu Yundong patted the bag in her hand with a smile and handed it to him. "This is for you." "What?" Shao Qingyuan could tell. Wasn't this what she had taken out when she entered the ready-to-wear shop? Clothes. Shao Qingyuan looked at her and then at the bag in her hand. After a while, he held his breath and opened the bag. In the next moment, a navy blue dress was revealed. It was brand new and it made one's eyes light up. He looked up in shock, his voice slightly hoarse. You're giving it to me?" Gu Yundong coughed lightly. "That's right. I saw that the last time you went hunting in the mountains, when you came back, your clothes had already become strips. I didn't see you buy new clothes, so I took the cloth and went to the tailor's to get someone to make a set. After all, you'll be working with me in the future. You have to wear better clothes. Otherwise, people will think that I took all your money." As she spoke, she heaved a sigh of relief. She had finally found an excuse to give it away. The corners of Shao Qingyuan's lips curled up uncontrollably. He reached out to touch the new clothes, but immediately retracted his hand. He stuffed the bag back into Gu Yundong's arms and turned around to run to the water vat. He scooped 2 ladles of water and began to wash his hands carefully. Gu Yundong was confused at first and thought that he did not like it. Unexpectedly, after washing his hands, he began to carefully stroke his clothes, his face full of joy. At that moment, she suddenly felt sad and bitter. Auntie Dong had told her about Shao Qingyuan's background. She said that his adoptive parents had disliked him since he was young. He had picked up clothes that others had sewn and mended and didn't want to wear. How could clothes that others didn't wear be good? Especially in winter, the cotton was already hard and completely cold. He had to wear it for a few years, but he grew up quickly and was often laughed at. It was only after his grandfather passed away that he went to the ready-to-wear shop to buy 2 sets of clothes and changed back and forth. This was probably the first time he had received clothes from someone. "Ahem, do you like it?" Shao Qingyuan immediately nodded. When he looked up at Gu Yundong, his eyes were bright. "You know my size? Isn't your focus wrong? I've made a rough estimate. I don't know if it fits. You can try it later. If it doesn't fit, you can change it." "It fits," Shao Qingyuan said without thinking. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She suddenly could not stand his gaze and hurriedly said, "That's all for now. Independent Illinois, go back." After saying that, she quickly left. Shao Qingyuan didn't move. He just stared at her back until she left. Then, he lowered his eyes to look at the bag in his hand, and the smile on his lips grew wider. He quickly turned around and entered the house, taking out his clothes to change into. It really fit him. It felt warm and comfortable on his body. However, in the next moment, he quickly took it off and gently folded it to the side. Then, he put on his original tattered clothes and went out the door with his bow and arrow. He went straight up the mountain. Gu Yundong did not know that. She had fallen asleep after returning to the Zhang family. Actually, she had also thought of asking Madame Dong to help make the clothes. However, that day, she took out the fabric for some reason. When she arrived at the county city, she asked the shopkeeper of the tailor shop to help make a set. Chapter 196. Familiar. Gu Yundong rubbed her brows, turned over, and fell asleep. The next day, she went to look for Qinliang to buy land. Qinliang was so shocked that he almost spat out his water. Buy land again? How come she still have money? I'm buying a homestead this time. I want to build a workshop. A workshop? Qinliang's eyes lit up. Their village was not very rich, and the villagers relied on those acres of land to make a living. Some villages had workshops. Even if it was a small village that specialized in carpentry, the village was also famous among those towns and counties. The villagers more or less benefited from it, and their families were much better. Now, there would actually be a workshop in their village? Qinliang was a little excited. He stood up and paced around the central room. After a long while, she finally calmed down and asked about serious matters. "What is your workshop doing? How big is it? Do you have any idea? If you build a workshop, it won't be a joke." "Of course. Don't worry, Uncle Qin. My workshop plans to make sugar. I want to buy 5 acres of land first and build it after spring." It was too late to build it now. The sugarcane was seasonal. When her workshop was completed, the sugarcane would be gone. Besides, Feng Danning was currently helping 2 other families to build houses. He could not spare the time. As for this period of time, she could only see if she could rent a place. Qingyuan listened to her roughly and nodded repeatedly. In the end, he waved his hand and said, "All right, 5 acres of land, or the one at the foot of the mountain." "That's right." However, they still had to walk away from the house. Otherwise, it would be too noisy and it would be messy. Qingyuan pointed out a few places to her. After confirming it, he said that it would be done soon. But before Yundong left, he stammered, "Well, Yundong, once your workshop is built, can you hire the locals from the village first?" Yundong was stunned. He smiled and said, "Of course. The uncles and aunts in the village have helped me a lot recently. I will definitely think of them. But I will definitely hire people who are diligent and efficient. Forget about those who are sneaky." Of course, of course." Qingyuan nodded repeatedly, extremely happy. Yundong really felt that he was a good village chief. He was focused on helping the villagers. Compared to the previous head of the Gu family, he was worlds apart. She went back, but Qingyuan was still standing at the door with a silly smile on his lips. Madame Zhou walked out and sighed slightly. "The Gu family's girl will be amazing in the future. Don't you think we should listen to what she said last time?" She was referring to the school where Niu Dan went to that Yundong came to talk about. Actually, they were quite satisfied with that teacher and felt that he had taught them correctly. Shouldn't students just read books? Why would the adults in the family need them for farm work? Even if the teacher didn't say anything, they wouldn't let Niu Dan go to the fields. However, Yundong said that the child had to have good stamina for the exams in the future. By helping the family, he could understand how difficult it was for his parents and family. He would cherish them even more. In any case, what she said made sense. However, she was only a 13-year-old girl after all. The teacher of the school was so old and was an elementary scholar. How could he be wrong? But look at Yundong now. Wasn't she advancing step by step? Qingyuan was also thinking about this question. After a while, he said, "Let me think about it." When Yundong returned to the Zheng family, he realized that only his mother was there. The Tong family's mother said, "Master Shao next door caught a roe deer." Everyone went to help. Yundong was surprised. Shao Qingyuan entered the mountain. Shao Qingyuan returned after getting a roe deer. As soon as he entered, he took a shower and changed into his new clothes. When Dong Shilan entered, she happened to see him coming out in high spirits. She could not help but take a few more glances. The color of the clothes felt familiar. Chapter 197. Clothes make a man. Not only did Dong Shilan take a second look at him, but the others in the courtyard were also stunned when they saw him coming out in a new set of clothes. Shao Qingyuan's usual clothes were gray and especially old. Now that he was dressed like this, he surprisingly looked handsome and noble. He was not inferior to Lu Wei from the county. When Yundong entered, she saw this scene and her eyes lit up. Indeed, clothes were everything. Shao Qingyuan's good looks had been ruined by him. But soon, when Yundong's gaze landed on the roe deer on the ground, she frowned again. "Did you go into the mountains last night?" Shao Qingyuan suddenly thought of what she had said previously and thought that she was angry. He immediately explained, "I wasn't deep in the mountains. There's no danger." Yundong pursed her lips and muttered softly, "It's late at night. Even if you didn't go deep into the mountains, it's still dangerous. Besides, the weather was so cold. Can't you hunt during the day?" "All right, I won't go next time." Yundong was speechless. She only muttered a few words and did not say that she wanted to order him around. Her ears were quite sharp. She coughed lightly and glanced at him again. "The clothes fit you quite well." With that, she turned to look at the roe deer. She squatted down and poked it. It was actually quite fat. "Perfect. We're moving tomorrow. I originally planned to roast meat to celebrate. Now, I don't have to go to town to buy meat." When Shao Qingyuan heard this, he immediately pointed at the wild chickens and rabbits beside him. There's still a lot over there. It should be enough to eat tomorrow. He was too excited last night and was full of energy. He had caused a lot of trouble on the way up the mountain. Yunka ran to Yundong's side and held her hand. Eldest sister, is the roast meat delicious? It's delicious. I guarantee you'll drool. The little girl's eyes immediately lit up. Then it'll help. She looked around and pointed at the pheasant. Help pluck the feathers. Go on. The little girl obediently ran to the pile of prey and began to pluck it. In the end, she was pecked by the pheasant that was still alive. The little girl covered her small hand and patted the pheasant's head. If you peck me again, I'll eat you. Yundong's mouth twitched when she saw this. When she saw Xingyu step forward, she did not care anymore. However, the girl from the Tong family asked her curiously, Eldest miss, where are we moving to tomorrow? The girl from the Tong family was called Tong Shuetao. She was 14 years old and looked soft and weak, but she was stronger than her father. She could lift the roe deer in front of her with one hand. Perhaps because they were slowly getting familiar with each other and knew that their master was not as fierce as before, they became a little bolder. Yundong liked her. She worked hard and was smart. She was a little surprised. We're moving to the new house opposite. Didn't you see it when you went out? It's quite a big building. Tong Shuetao widened her eyes and opened her mouth wide. Of course she saw it. So, that was the master's house, where they would live in the future? Yundong laughed. She thought that even if she did not say it, they would be able to guess it. Alright, let's prepare the roe deer and the wild chicken and rabbits first. Tong Shuetao blushed and went to pick up the roe deer. Yundong then went to look for Dong Xiulan. She wanted to ask her to make a school bag for Yunshu to carry to school. However, after looking around and not seeing anyone, she could not help but walk in. Just as she reached the door of the room on the left, she suddenly heard Dong Xiulan's voice. She seemed to have mentioned her. Chapter 198, The two of them are quite suitable for each other, I didn't see wrongly. The clothes Qingyuan is wearing belong to Yundong. Dong Xiulan was talking to her husband, Zhenghu. Do you think the two of them? Before she could finish speaking, Zhenghu interrupted her. Don't talk nonsense. This is completely ungrounded. Sigh, I'm just worried about those two children. Dong Xiulan sighed softly. It's fine for Qingyuan. He's a loner, and no one cares if he has a wife or not. He doesn't care either. He's almost 20 years old. If he delays any longer, he'll become an old bachelor in the village. Dong Xiulan fed Zhenghu a mouthful of rice. What about Yundong? Although she has a father, a mother, and a family, her father is missing, and her mother doesn't understand these things. Yundong has to take care of herself. She also has to look for her father. Now, she's focused on earning more money. What do you think her family will do when she gets married in the future? Zhenghu couldn't help but nod when he heard that. Yes, she'll be 14 years old after the new year. It's almost time to talk about marriage. With Yundong's current family background, there must be many people proposing marriage. It's just that after she gets married, it won't be easy to take care of her mother and the others. Her in-laws probably won't agree either. Those people who propose marriage are most likely after her family's house. Yundong will definitely suffer if she marries into such a family. Dong Xiulan's eyes suddenly lit up as she spoke. So I think Yundong and Qingyuan are actually quite suitable for each other. Shao Qingyuan was alone and was doing business with Yundong now. Without in-laws, he could help Yundong take care of Madame Yang and the other two in the future. He was also good-looking and capable. If others wanted to cause trouble, he could beat them out with one hand. Moreover, be it Madame Yang or Yunshu and Yunka, they all liked him. He wouldn't go after her house and money. He was a reliable person. If it weren't for the huge difference between her Xingyu and Shao Qingyuan, Dong Xiulan would have wanted him to be her son-in-law. Yundong stood at the door and listened. The image of Shao Qingyuan standing in front of her in his new clothes flashed across her mind, and her heart suddenly beat faster. She suddenly reached out and slapped her face. What was she thinking? She was only 14 years old after the new year. It was still early. Yundong did not look for Dong Xiulan. She turned around and left the Shao family. As soon as she reached the courtyard, she saw Shao Qingyuan. Yundong thought of what Madame Dong and Zheng Hu had said and subconsciously glared at him. Shao Qingyuan was confused. Seeing her leave in a hurry, he quickly said, "I promise I won't go hunting at night again." Yundong staggered and almost fell. "Who asked for your promise?" She walked even faster and only heaved a sigh of relief when she reached the Zheng family's door. However, in the next moment, a soft cry suddenly came from behind. "Hey!" Yundong was shocked. She turned around and saw a head sneakily sticking out from the haystack not far away and staring at her for a long time. Yundong could not help but roll her eyes. She strode over. "If you're looking for me, just come for me. Why are you sneaking around? Don't you think this is more eye-catching?" Zhuangzi paused and thought that it made sense. He stood up straight and chuckled. "You're looking for me at this time? Is there a situation?" Yundong had asked Zhuangzi to keep an eye on Madame Fong and her daughter, but he had not come to her. She did not expect him to come looking for her today. Chapter 199, Discovering the Adultery. Zhuangzi smiled at her mysteriously. Slowly, that smile became vulgar. Yundong could not help but take a small step back. "Stop laughing. Hurry up and say it." His smile was too ugly. "Ahem." Zhuangzi coughed lightly and looked around before saying softly, "You asked me to keep an eye on the mother and daughter previously. Did you already guess that there was an affair?" "Hee, your guess is right. That Madame Fong looks innocent, but I didn't expect her to have hooked up with someone long ago." Yundong was speechless. "Huh? She found out that Madame Fong was having an affair? When did this happen? Why didn't she know?" Zhuangzi started to smile wretchedly again. "Do you know who Madame Fong hooked up with? It's beyond your imagination. Can you get to the point? I didn't expect you to be a gossipy man. Look at how excited you are. The flesh on your face is trembling, okay? Oh, let me tell you. Madame Fang's lover is our village's widower, Zhao Dafa. Before dawn this morning, I saw the two of them secretly meet. Madame Fong even gave Zhao Dafa a bag of something. I don't know what it was. However, the two of them seemed to have quarreled later. Zhao Dafa threw the bag on the ground and left." Zhao Dafa? Yundong did not know him. Although she knew most of the people in the village entrance was too far from the foot of the mountain. She did not recognize all of the people. Zhuangzi was still clicking his tongue. "Unfortunately, I was far away and didn't hear what they were arguing about. However, I didn't expect Madame Fong to actually take a fancy to Zhao Dafa. She's bold enough. What's wrong with Zhao Dafa?" Yundong asked curiously. "This Zhao Dafa, right? He's quite good-looking and comes from a good family. He's even 2 years younger than Madame Fong. However, others might not know this, but I know him very well. That Zhao Dafa likes to beat his wife." Zhuangzi said softly. Zhao Dafa's previous wife ran away because she couldn't stand Zhao Dafa beating her up. She ran away in the middle of the night. I happened to come back from Liangzi's house that day after drinking and saw it with my own eyes. However, the Zhao family said that she was sick the next day and needed to stay at home to recuperate. Half a month later, they said that she died. That Zhao family really cares about their reputation. They don't dare to say that she ran away. How far would it take for a woman to run away in this era where transportation was inconvenient and difficult? Madame Fong and Zhao Dafa? Yundong felt that it was unlikely. However, she could not figure it out for the time being. She could only let Zhuangzi continue to keep an eye on them. Zhuangzi seemed to be especially enthusiastic about this matter. When he heard this, he immediately nodded and turned to run. He only ran 2 steps before he came back. He looked at Yundong and said hesitantly, "Well, I have to thank you. I know that you hired my parents to do things and gave them a very high salary." Without waiting for Yundong to react, he disappeared. Yundong shook her head and returned to the Zhang family. Because there were many people at home, all kinds of meat were prepared quickly. The next morning, everyone hurriedly moved their things to their new home. Yundong took out the barbecue grill that she had ordered previously. This thing was quite big and there was no problem with roasting meat. Previously, she had invited guests when she set up the beam. This time, she would not invite them. However, Yundong still asked Yunshu to invite the village chief and the Feng family over. Unexpectedly, they had not returned even after half a day. Yundong decided to take a look herself. Before she reached the village chief's house, she saw an unfamiliar person looking at her. Yundong was quite sharp. She turned around and saw a middle-aged man standing not far away. Chapter 200, He actually ran away. Yundong frowned. Just as she was about to ask who he was, she saw that person jump up in shock like a mouse seeing a cat and run away. Yundong was speechless. Did she have the word fiendish on her face? "Hey, isn't that Zhao Dafa?" A familiar voice suddenly came from behind. Yundong turned around and saw Qingyuan's family coming over. The one who spoke was Madame Zhou. She was holding a basket filled with various vegetables. Zhao Dafa. So he was the Zhao Dafa that Zhuangzi was talking about. Yundong looked thoughtfully in the direction where he had run off before asking Madame Zhou, "I was about to look for you. I asked Yunshu to invite you over for a meal. I haven't seen you all this time and was thinking about what had delayed you." Yunshu was standing at the back, talking to Niu Dan. When he heard this, he looked up and said, "Don't worry, eldest sister. I will definitely complete the mission. Isn't that so?" Madame Zhou smiled and said, "Your Yunshu is too eloquent. That little mouth of his is so eloquent. If we didn't come, we would feel that we had committed a heinous crime. However, we can't come empty-handed. Look, we picked some vegetables from the field and we were delayed for a while. Auntie, you're too kind." As she spoke, she turned around and didn't see Feng Daning's family. Only then did Yunshu say, "Aunt Hohot is not at home. Uncle Feng said that he is building a house. He's too busy to come." Feng Daning was now a busy man. Ever since he helped Yundong build that green brick house, many people had lined up to ask him to build a house. Now, he had 2 tasks on hand and was extremely busy. Coincidentally, Lu Hohot had brought the 2 children back to her parents' house yesterday and had not returned today. Yundong nodded and left with Qingyuan and the others. It was only when they arrived at the Gu residence that Qingyuan and the others realized that she had actually bought servants. They had not heard anything for the past 2 days. She was too low-key. Looking at how energetic these people were, she must have spent a lot of money. The Gu family was really getting better. Yundong quickly roasted the meat she had prepared the day before and added her own condiments. In an instant, the fragrance filled the air. The children sniffed hard and looked at the food on the barbecue rack. Yundong tried the raw deer meat. Yes, it was tender. She roasted a few more skewers and moved aside to let the others do it while she chatted with Qingyuan. Only then did Qingyuan know that the Gu family's business was actually working with Shao Qingyuan. Actually, this was good too. Qingyuan had a good impression of Shao Qingyuan and was not as afraid as the people in the village. This meal of roasted meat lasted until the sky darkened before everyone dispersed reluctantly. The Tong family swiftly packed up their things. Yundong stood in the courtyard and looked at the new house. He smiled exceptionally happily. They could stay in the new house today. Not only her, but Madame Yang and the 2 little ones were also jumping around happily. They lay on the bed and could not fall asleep. "It'll be good if we can find father. Gu Yunshu sighed faintly. He was the one who missed Gu Dajiang the most. Whenever there was a joyous occasion at home, he hoped that Gu Dajiang would be there too. It would be perfect if the family could reunite. Gu Yundong patted his head. We will find him. After chatting for a while, Gu Yundong let the three of them sleep. Then, under Madame Yang's eager gaze, she decisively went to the room next door to sleep. She slept so comfortably in the new house that the entire family woke up late the next day. Gu Yundong sat up in a daze, vaguely thinking that she had forgotten something. Chapter 201, Role Model. It was not until Madame Dong came over and handed her the school bag that she suddenly woke up. Yes, she had to send Yunshu to school today. Gu Yundong cursed in her heart. She thanked Madame Dong and ran to Madame Yang's room with the school bag. Madame Yang had already woken up. She had developed a biological clock. Although she slept especially comfortably today, she did not wake up much later. The two little ones were sleeping messily on the bed. She searched for a long time before she found Yunshu's head on the other side. She took the opportunity to dig Yunk's head out of the blanket to prevent her from suffocating. Yunshu, wake up, wake up. She pinched the little fellow's nose. The latter closed his eyes and immediately opened his mouth to breathe. Gu Yundong, let's see how capable you are. She simply carried him out from under the blanket. Gu Yunshu shivered and woke up. Eldest sister? Get up and get dressed. I'll send you to school. School? He tilted his head, still not understanding. It was only when Gu Yundong brought his clothes over that he suddenly remembered. He quickly stood up and got off the bed. He ran to the wardrobe and rummaged for a long time before taking out the new clothes that Madame Dong had made for him. I want to wear this. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Seeing that he was shaking his head happily, she could only put the clothes in her hands back. Gu Yunshu quickly packed up and carried the novel and strange little bag on his back. He took the pen, ink, paper, and inkstone that he had bought long ago and hurriedly got into the carriage. Gu Yundong brought him there, and Father Tong drove the carriage. She might be very busy in the future, so Father Tong was responsible for taking Yunshu. The school's gatekeeper already knew her and sent them in enthusiastically. When she saw Qin Wenjing, Gu Yundong was a little surprised. What was wrong with Mr. Qin? He looked very haggard. However, Qin Wenjing sneered. He saw through her thoughts at a glance. If not for you, would I be so busy? She didn't even think about why no one had come to Yongfu village in the past few days. Didn't she know how big the commotion in Jinxiu restaurant that day was? It was all because he had helped her block it. If she really had a conscience, she should have expressed it. Just as this thought came to his mind, Gu Yundong handed him a bag of things with a serious expression. I know that the last time Master Qin sent all the sugar away, you didn't keep any for yourself. This is for Madame and Anning to try. Please accept it. Qin Wenjing coughed lightly. Your relationship with Madame is quite good. With that, he took the sugar without hesitation and led Gu Yunshu in. Gu Yundong stood on the spot and looked at his back. She sighed in her heart, what a role model. After settling the matter of Gu Yunshu going to school, she returned to the village. She had to recruit people and start working. The carriage drove all the way into Yongfu village. Just as it reached the entrance of the village, they saw Zhao Dafa. Zhao Dafa also saw her, and his expression changed slightly. He turned around and ran. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. If he hid when he saw her, what else could it be but that he had done something bad? She picked up something beside her and threw it at him. Zhao Dafa exclaimed and stopped in his tracks. Gu Yundong jumped down from the carriage. Father Tong, who was driving the carriage, blocked Zhao Dafa's way first. He had no way to retreat. He could only turn around and look at Gu Yundong with a dry smile. Did you do something to me? Gu Yundong sized him up. Otherwise, why would you run away for no reason? Chapter 202, Recruitment. Zhao Dafa shuddered and hurriedly explained, I didn't do anything. I don't really believe it. Really, I swear. Zhao Dafa was about to cry. That woman from the Qin family asked me to visit your house more often. I didn't agree. I rejected her. I didn't think of stealing. I'm different from a hooligan like Hu Liang. You can't hit me. Zhao Dafa was really afraid of Gu Yundong. Not only did he see how Gu Yundong dealt with Hu Liang and the others, but he also saw the scene of Hu Liang's legs being broken. He remembered that because Hu Liang had scolded Gu Yundong a few more times, he had been tortured to death by the Peng family servants. That day, when he was in the county city, he saw it with his own eyes. When he returned, he had a nightmare. When he met the Gu family, he avoided them. Zhao Dafa was certain that Gu Yundong was definitely related to the Peng family and was not someone he could offend. Gu Yundong could roughly tell from his words that Madame Fong and her daughter did want Zhao Dafa to cause trouble for her family, but Zhao Dafa was afraid of her and rejected them. It was not difficult to understand what Zhuangzi had said about the two of them quarreling. She had heard before that people who hit their wife and children at home were usually cowards outside. They bullied the weak and feared the strong. Zhao Dafa was one of them. Can I leave now? Zhao Dafa asked in a low voice. Gu Yundong looked at him and did not know what to say. He nodded and ignored him. He got back into the carriage. She was very busy. When she got back, she started recruiting people to prepare sugar. She had also chosen a temporary address. Chen Liang had helped her find it. It was a family with the surname Lu in the village. That family was a young couple who lived with their father. There was a huge courtyard at home. It was said that it had been used to raise chickens a long time ago. However, a few years ago, there was a chicken plague and more than half of the chickens died. Not only did the Lu family suffer a huge loss, but they also owed an external debt. Last year, they had just paid off all their debt before their son married a wife. When they heard that the Gu family wanted to rent their courtyard, the three of them agreed. Due to the size of the courtyard and the noise of sugar making, Gu Yundong's rent was 800 copper coins a month. She had a place, but she was short of manpower. Gu Yundong began to recruit openly. At first, she considered the people who had built a house for her family. However, these people weren't free now and followed Feng Danning everywhere. Chen Liang was enthusiastic and helped her pass the message yesterday. Therefore, when Gu Yundong returned home from the county city, there were many people gathered at the entrance of the Gu residence. Not only were there people from the village, but there were also many people from the neighboring village. Upon seeing her return, all of them rushed forward and asked, Yundong, is your family really going to hire someone to help with the work? How much is the salary? Yundong, are you really going to build a workshop? Yundong, what do you think of me? I'm very strong. I can do anything you want me to. Yundong, Gu Yundong was surrounded and almost pushed through the door. All of them were calling her so affectionately. They had clearly not spoken before. She coughed lightly and stood on the steps. Everyone, listen to me. I do want to set up a sugar workshop, but the workshop can only be built after spring. At the moment, I can only borrow the Lu family's courtyard to use for the time being, so I won't hire many people. About 10 people will be enough. The salary will be set at 500 copper coins a month. If you do your job well, it will naturally be increased. 500 copper coins was a lot. Of course, the workers have to be diligent when I hire people, and, Miss Gu, what do you think of me? I'm very efficient. Gu Yundong was interrupted before she could finish speaking. She frowned slightly and looked at the person who spoke. She did not recognize him. He did not seem to be from the village. However, Dong Xiaolan's expression instantly turned ugly when she saw this person. Chapter 203, from Yongfu village. Gu Yundong ignored the person and continued, there's one more thing that I have to say in advance. Because there are not many people to hire, we will choose from the locals of Yongfu village first. But don't worry, in the future, the workshop, I'm from Yongfu village. Choose me, the person shouted again. Yundong was not very patient to begin with. Moreover, this person had interrupted her again and again. She shot a cold gaze at the woman who had spoken. She looked young, about 17 or 18 years old, but she was dressed like a woman. She must have married. Even if you're from Yongfu village, I won't choose you. The person was still smiling, but when she heard this, she was stunned for a moment. Her face immediately turned stiff. Why don't you choose me? Why not? I'm agile and diligent. Didn't you say your request just now? Isn't it just right for me? Madame Dong snorted coldly and said, How are you good? You're already married. You can't be considered a member of Yongfu village. The other villagers knew that there were few spots, so they naturally agreed. That's right. You've already married into the Liang family village. How can you still have the face to come to Yongfu village and say that you meet the request? Li Xianquan, don't come here to join in the fun. Hurry up and go home to nurse the children. Let's go. Don't block us. Yundong hasn't even finished speaking and she's already shouting non-stop. Does she know the rules? Li Xianquan almost stomped her feet. She glared at the people who spoke and shouted, Even if I am married, she's still from Yongfu village. I'm not leaving. I want to work in her workshop. Then, she looked at Yundong. When will your workshop start working? I'll be the first to go. Yundong was so angry that she laughed. So this woman was married. No wonder this woman thought she was easy to bully because she was young and thin-skinned. Didn't you hear what I said? I don't choose you. You can get lost now. Li Xianquan widened her eyes. Girl, how can you say that? Who are you telling to get lost? You're just a little girl who has just come to Yongfu village. Why are you so insensible? Yundong completely lost his patience and said to Tong Shuitao, Throw her away. Tong Shuitao was already itching to give it a try. One look at this woman and one would be displeased. She was the one who was insensible. When the young miss spoke, she would always interrupt her, and her voice was especially loud. She walked towards Li Xianquan. The latter did not take the soft and weak Tong Shuitao seriously at all. She sneered and did not move. It was only when Tong Shuitao grabbed her waist and dragged her out that everyone suddenly gasped. Li Xianquan was not thin at all, especially after giving birth. She had never lost weight, not to mention that she was taller and stronger than that girl. But now, she was easily dragged away. Li Xianquan widened her eyes and panted. She hurriedly shouted to the side, Are you dead? Can't you see that your wife has been bullied? A lean man at the side immediately rushed out. He did not even look at Tong Shuitao. Instead, he shouted at Yundong, Tell her to let him go, do you hear me? Otherwise what? A cold voice came from behind him. This voice was very familiar, so familiar that the man felt a chill run down his spine and almost jumped up. Li Xianquan was also stunned when she saw who it was. Chapter 204, All afraid of Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan asked again, Otherwise what? The man slowly turned his head away and his face instantly turned pale. He could not speak for a long time. He stammered for a long time but could not express himself clearly. Shao Qingyuan's face was cold as he looked at Li Xianquan. Who asked you to come here? Li Xianquan was a little braver than her man, but not by much. She said softly, I came to the workshop to work. No need. Get lost. Li Xianquan shrunk her neck and tried her best to defend herself. This isn't your workshop. If you say you don't need me, then I'm not needed. This is my workshop. Shao Qingyuan stared at her and said word by word. Li Xianquan's eyes widened, and so did the others present. Then, they all turned to look at Yundong. The latter shrugged. Yes, this workshop is indeed a collaboration between Shao Qingyuan and me. He introduced me to young Master Lu and made a guarantee so that young Master Lu would lend me money. That was why I opened the workshop, so this workshop is half Shao Qingyuan's. This was what they had discussed in private. After all, this was easy to accept. If everyone knew that Shao Qingyuan had actually saved a few hundred taels of silver, who knew how much trouble he would cause? Therefore, they might as well borrow Lu Wei's name and use it. Perhaps it could even serve as a deterrent. As expected, when she said this, the villagers' gazes became complicated. However, for some reason, a few people quietly retreated. Yundong's eyes lit up. Oh my, so Shao Qingyuan had such an effect. When Li Xiangxuan and her husband heard this, they turned around and left, not daring to say anything about going to the workshop to work. The originally noisy crowd also began to discuss softly. Then, a large group of people left. There was no need for Yundong to emphasize the recruitment conditions. Shao Qingyuan was like a stabilizing force. He stood there, and many people who were originally scheming left. The rest were villagers whose families were really in trouble and needed this job, as well as people who didn't have any conflicts with Shao Qingyuan and didn't feel guilty or afraid. But there were still too many people, so Yundong could only choose a few. In the end, 8 men and 3 women were left behind. They were all in their prime. Including Dong Shilan, the Lu family of 3, and the village chief's second son, Qin Jinbao, there were a total of 16 people. After confirming the candidates, Yundong took out a contract and read the terms to them. If there were no objections, they would press their thumbprints and start work in 2 days. Only one woman objected and did not sign the contract. Yundong did not force her. The 16 people became 15. Yundong explained the things to take note of and also said that this was a short-term job that would only last for 4 to 5 months. However, if it was suitable, the work would continue next year. When the workshop was built, it would be even more standardized. Short-term work could also become longer. No one had any objections when they heard that. At this time, there was no farming to do, and it was difficult to find things to do outside. They sat at home all day and ate food without work. They were also anxious. Not to mention that the Gu family paid them a lot of money and the work was not heavy. When the 16 of them went home, their families were happy. They all urged them to do their best and strive to stay after the workshop was built next year. After everyone left, Yundong put away the contract. He then had the time to ask Shao Qingyuan, who is Li Xiangxuan. Chapter 205, She's from the Li family. Shao Qingyuan's expression was cold. Someone from the Li family. Yundong did not understand at first. After a while, he reacted. The Li family? Wasn't it the family that adopted Shao Qingyuan? Heh, this shameless person actually dared to come over even though she knew that Shao Qingyuan lived nearby. After Shao Qingyuan left, Madame Dong said to her that Li Xiangxuan is only a year younger than Qingyuan. She has been domineering since she was young. When Qingyuan was young, she bullied him countless times. Later on, she got married and even came back every other day to cause trouble for Qingyuan. It was only when old Master Li passed away and Qingyuan stopped indulging them that the Li family stopped. What she didn't say was that half of Li Xian'er's man's hair had been cut off by Shao Qingyuan. He was so frightened that he peed his pants. He had not been to Yongfu village for more than half a year. They did not expect him to appear again today. He deserved to be taught another lesson. After Madame Dong finished speaking, she glanced at Yundong's expression and sighed softly. Qingyuan is actually quite a good person. As long as you don't anger him, he won't teach you a lesson. Look at those people who are so afraid of him. Which one of them doesn't deserve it? Our family has been his neighbor for so long. If we really need his help, he will come immediately without a word. Don't think that he hasn't married yet. That's because others have ruined his reputation and don't understand his character. Otherwise, with his appearance and ability, the number of girls who want to marry him can line up from our village to the town. Ahem, a light cough sounded at the door. Dong Xilan looked up and saw that Shao Qingyuan had returned. She quickly stood up. There's still soup stewing in the pot over there. I'll go take a look. With that, she slipped away. Yundong also stood up. I'll go and see how the Lu family's courtyard is cleaned up. She slipped past him and ran away. Shao Qingyuan stood on the spot and thought about her slightly evasive gaze. Was she shy? He lowered his eyes and smiled. In the following days, Yundong was exceptionally busy. The Lu family's courtyard had been tidied up, and all the necessary tools were available. The hired people also began to work. Shao Qingyuan and Shen Hongyi were the ones who went to buy the sugarcane. They had already visited all the nearby villages, so they went further away. The Lu family made black sugar. After that, Yundong brought it back and processed it into white sugar in her courtyard. The 6 members of the Tong family were all helping. Yundong had also raised their monthly allowance. She had told the Tong family in advance that the production of white sugar was an order from the emperor of the capital. If anyone leaked the formula, their entire family would be executed. The Tong family was honest to begin with. When they heard this, they did their best and controlled the process tightly. The sugar production went on in an orderly manner. When it was almost done, Yundong began to plan to open the shop. After checking the calendar, the nearest good day was 2 days before the Laba festival. Yundong took a look. Wasn't this perfect? They could cook Laba porridge when they went home after buying sugar. Hence, she set the date to the 6th of December and asked Lu Wei to help promote it. Lu Wei was not afraid of publicity. It did not take long for everyone in his circle to know. Although the price of white sugar was not too ridiculous, it was still expensive to ordinary people. Therefore, the target customers were basically those rich families. On the 6th day of December, Yundong put on her new clothes early in the morning. She got into the carriage and went straight to the county. Chapter 206. The family goes to the county city. Yundong also applied for leave for Yunshu. Father Tong and his wife were the only ones guarding the Tong family. Everyone else went to the county to open for business. Dong Xilan also brought the children over. Her husband asked Father Tong to help take care of them for the time being. Yundong's carriage was not big enough. Fortunately, Luan came to pick her up early. He looked much more excited than her. He only turned the carriage around and brought Shao Qingyuan to pick Lu Wei up after sending her to the entrance of the shop. The Gu family's shop was in the east of the city. It was called Gus and the name was given by Shao Qingyuan. When Yundong went to discuss it with him, he almost blurted it out. The street in the east of the city was considered the most prosperous and lively commercial street in Fengkai County. There were pharmaceutical shops, butcher shops, grocery stores, satin sellers and restaurants everywhere. In the middle, it was originally the Tao family's wine shop. Some time ago, it suddenly closed and was renovated. The surrounding shops did not know what it looked like. Yundong had personally designed the interior of Gus. There was a long wooden board hanging on the right side of the door. On it was written the goods for sale. The first line was white sugar, followed by brown sugar, orange sugar, and pear sugar. There were not many types. At the moment, Yundong could only buy these few things. He would take his time. After entering, there was a round table that could be rotated. The table was tied with clean straw, a few candied haws, and lollipops. Next to it was a counter. This counter was different from other shops. It was beige in color and had a round arc. It was carved with patterns and looked much brighter. There were all kinds of cabinets around the shop. There was a wooden sign hanging on each of them, indicating the name and price. She even divided the first-grade white sugar and the second-grade white sugar. After all, the Tong family had just started making them. There would always be some faulty products when they were not familiar with them. Actually, it did not affect them much. It was just that they were not that white. This kind could be sold at a lower price. The The backyard of the shop had also been tidied up. Yundong and the others had arrived early and the shop wouldn't be open until a particular time, so they went to the backyard together. Dong Xilan said enviously, "Yundong is so capable. She even has such a big house and shop in the county. You'll have it sooner or later." Yundong poured a glass of water. "The last time Uncle Zheng came back from the county, didn't the doctor say that he would slowly recover after recuperating for a while? By then, Aunt's life will be better. Besides, Zheng Jia, Zheng Yu, and Zheng Lu are so sensible. Your good days will come later." Some time ago, Shao Qingyuan took Uncle Zheng to the best medical center in the county to see a doctor. Perhaps because he had eaten well recently and was in a good mood, Zheng He's condition was very optimistic. Now that Dong Xiulan was working in the workshop and the 3 children had helped a lot, and Yundong would pay her, the Zheng family was indeed prospering. Dong Xiulan's smile widened. She was very grateful to Yundong. If not for her, their family might have really declined. She was a woman with 3 children and had to take care of her man. Not only was she tired, but her man was also very depressed during that period of time. He almost gave up on himself and felt that he was a burden to them. Shao Qingyuan happened to be in the prefectural city at that time. He didn't know the situation even if he wanted to help. Now, everything would really be fine. Just as they were talking, the sound of banging came from outside the door. The people in the courtyard were stunned and ran out. Chapter 207, Opening Day. As soon as the door opened, she saw a huge lion head rushing towards her. Yundong immediately took a step back and subconsciously wanted to raise her leg to kick it. The lion head began to turn to the side again, and the lion tail jumped around. This one was not enough. Soon, another lion also jumped up. The second lion was obviously more professional than the first. The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. She swore that she had never thought of calling the dragon and lion dancers over. It turned out that the banging was their gongs and drums. Just as she was thinking about it, the first lion's head was removed, revealing Lu Wei's somewhat silly face. "How is it? This opening is lively, right?" It attracted everyone. He wiped the sweat off his face and suddenly shouted at the lion behind him, "Shao Qingyuan, come here." The lion behind also removed its head. Shao Qingyuan glared at Lu Wei with a cold expression. Yundong was originally speechless, but when she saw Shao Qingyuan's attire, she could not help but laugh. "I was wondering why you left with Luan. So you prepared such a surprise. Ha ha ha, this suits you very well. Really, you're especially handsome. You were even better than Lu Wei in lion dance just now." Shao Qingyuan was originally unhappy. He was completely forced to come by Lu Wei. But now, seeing her smile so brightly, he suddenly felt that it was just a lion dance. It was not a big deal. However, Lu Wei was a little dissatisfied. What did she mean by better than him? He had specially trained for a day. No, half a day. He should be better than Shao Qingyuan, who had been pulled over at the last minute. However, before he could retort, a commotion suddenly sounded from behind. "Manager Gu, congratulations on opening the business." Tao Feng was the one who spoke. He led his servants over and even brought gifts. Yundong did not know him, but Lu Wei snorted coldly. However, he did not say anything and only told her in a low voice, "This is Tao Xing's elder brother, Tao Feng. However, the two of them do not have the same mother. He has no feud with me." Yundong was enlightened. Since the visitor was a guest, Yundong naturally welcomed him. "Young Master Tao, you're too kind. Please come in." Then, she asked the second son of the Tong family to serve tea. As soon as he entered, many more people came one after another. They were all young masters who had participated in the bet in Jinxiu restaurant that day. Yundong only recognized the young master of the county magistrate's family. The others were unfamiliar, but she welcomed them indirectly. There were a lot of people. Although the shop was big, there were very few tables and chairs. Gu Yundong could only ask Shao Qingyuan to borrow stools next door. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, she found Shao Qingyuan looking at Tao Feng. She pursed her lips slightly and recalled that last time at Jinshu restaurant, he had also stared at the Tao family for a long time. Gu Yundong did not understand. Did Shao Qingyuan have any conflict with the Tao family? It didn't look like it. If there was, the Tao family wouldn't be so calm when they saw Shao Qingyuan, right? Just as she was thinking about it, Peng Zhongfei came over. Not only did he come, but he also brought his wife in. However, the expression on his face was a little impatient. It was obvious that he did not want to bring his wife. However, in the next moment, when he looked up and saw Gu Yundong, his expression instantly became bright. There was even a hint of flattery in his smile. Seeing this, Madame Peng's face suddenly darkened. She tightened her grip on the handkerchief in her hands and secretly tore it. Gu Yundong was speechless. Was he trying to attract haters for her? Chapter 208, Madame Yao misses. Peng's surname was Yao. The nanny beside her was Nanny Qian, who had come to deliver the congratulatory gift when the Gu family set up the beam. Nanny Qian smiled and introduced, "Miss Gu, this is my young madam." Gu Yundong nodded at Madame Yao. Madame Yao was sizing her up, but she had a smile on her face and looked very friendly. "Miss Gu, congratulations. I heard that your sugar is unique in Fengkai County. My master saw it last time at Jinshu restaurant. When he came back, he praised it so much that I was curious and couldn't wait to see it. Look, I shamelessly followed my master here. Don't take it to heart." Gu Yundong also laughed. "Madame Peng, you must be joking. It's not that exaggerated. Let's go to the backyard and drink a cup of white sugar water. It tastes good." "Okay." Madame Yao asked Nanny Qian to deliver the gift and nodded with a smile. Peng Zhongfei was not the only one who brought his wife here today. Gu Yundong had asked Dong Xiulan to invite the others to the backyard for tea. Since Madame Yao was here, Gu Yundong naturally led her to the back. Dong Xiulan was a countryside woman. How could she have interacted with the wives of these wealthy families? She had always been worried. Fortunately, she had the wife of the eldest son of the Tong family, Madame Jiang. Madame Jiang had been a servant in a rich family before. Although she could not serve her master directly, she knew the rules of these families. Seeing that Dong Xiulan was uncomfortable, she whispered that she would serve tea and entertain her. Most of these madams knew each other and would find someone to chat with. Dong Xiulan nodded repeatedly. She didn't want to be in the middle of these people. However, she had promised to help Yundong today, so she was afraid that she would mess it up. When Gu Yundong led Madame Yao in, she saw Dong Xiulan sweating profusely and trembling with fear as she held the candied water. She immediately held her forehead. It was her fault for not thinking it through. It was embarrassing. Fortunately, Qin Wenzheng and his wife had arrived. Madame Gu had a good relationship with Gu Yundong and was Yunshu's master's wife. At this moment, she was naturally pulled over to help greet Madame Yao and the others. Gu Yundong chatted with her for a while before leaving. It was very lively outside. With Lu Wei and Shao Qingyuan around, there was actually not much of a problem. Many people were looking at the white sugar, and some were asking about the lollipop that was inserted in the middle of a straw and emitted the fragrance of fruit. Many shopkeepers next door saw so many rich young masters and young madams coming to support the new shop, so they came over to look curiously. After knowing what was sold in the shop, all of them widened their eyes and were eager to give it a try. However, when they heard the price, they were still a little afraid. This candy was good, but 100 copper coins per tael was really unbearable. However, Gu Yundong was not worried about the customers at all. After the opening, her sugar would be sold like crazy. "I want 50 pounds. I want 100 pounds. I don't want much. 20 caddies is enough." Yundong looked at the people who rushed to the counter with silver in their hands and asked their servants to block the counter with white sugar, as if they were afraid that the sugar would be snatched away. Yundong coughed lightly. It's my humble shop's honor to have all of you here today. However, there's a limited number of goods, so each customer can only buy 5 caddies at most. I'll pay more, someone said. Yundong shook her head. Only 5 caddies. In such a short period of time, the amount of white sugar she could produce was limited. How could she sell dozens of caddies? Everyone was extremely disappointed. In the end, they could only carry a small cloth bag out. Peng Zhongfei also bought 5 caddies, but he left after throwing down 20 taels of silver. Madame Yao saw his actions clearly and her eyes could not help but darken. Chapter 209. Call Gu Xian'er over. Peng Zhongfei happily got into the carriage with 5 caddies of white sugar. He didn't even care about Madame Yao's expression. Nanny Qian carefully helped her into the car and advised in a low voice, "Young madam, don't think too much. Young master might just like this white sugar. He'll naturally be happy if he can buy it." Madame Yao snorted and closed her eyes to rest after getting into the carriage. She thought of Gu Yundong, a woman who was full of vitality, capable, and beautiful. However, she wasn't master's type. She hadn't fully matured yet, and master liked someone like Concubine Xiao. Yes, she was not master's type. Madame Yao thought about it and heaved a sigh of relief. Peng Zhongfei's voice sounded in her ear. "This candy is too little. I'll ask the Gu family's girl later if she can give us more." No matter what, they had a little friendship, right? She looks better than last time. Madame Yao suddenly opened her eyes. "Master, do you think Miss Gu is quite good-looking?" "Yes," Peng Zhongfei said without looking up. He had only seen her 3 times. The first time, she was a country girl who was dressed in rustic clothes and had a shriveled body. The second time, in Jinshu restaurant, her expression was much better. She looked energetic, but she looked petty in front of a large group of glamorous young masters. However, looking at her today, if one did not look at her young face, she would look like the wife of a rich family, except for her figure, which was still unattractive. Indeed, it must be because someone was secretly protecting her. Otherwise, how could she have achieved so much in such a short period of time? Madame Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. Nanny Qian, who was beside her, quickly tugged at her. "How did you know Manager Gu?" Madame Yao secretly took a deep breath and asked softly. Her family. Peng Zhongfei suddenly stopped talking. He couldn't say it. That matter couldn't be leaked. He finally raised his head and glanced at Madame Yao. "Why are you asking this?" "I'm just curious. Shopkeeper Gu doesn't look very old. I heard that she just came here as a refugee. Why does it seem like Master is very familiar with her? Last time, you even asked me to prepare a gift for her house completion celebration. I was just thinking that now that Shopkeeper Gu has opened a shop in the county city, there will be more opportunities to visit her in the future." Peng Zhongfei waved his hand. "Indeed. In the future, take care of her business more and take care of her more. I gave them more money today. They should be happy, right?" He was referring to the non-existent old man, but it sounded to Madame Yao that Peng Zhongfei was trying to please Gu Yundong. Madame Yao could only laugh dryly and could not continue the conversation. Master did not intend to talk about how he and Gu Yundong met. It seemed that there was more to this than met the eye. Nanny Qian lowered her head at the side and became even more frightened when she heard young master's words. When they arrived at the Peng residence, Peng Zhongfei carried the bag of white sugar and left. Nanny Qian trembled as she helped Madame Yao back to the Rui garden. As soon as they entered the house, Madame Yao sneered. "You're really capable." Nanny Qian knew who she was talking about. She lowered her head slightly and said, "Young madam, perhaps that's not what young master meant. That girl can't meet young master's requirements at all. Doesn't that mean that she's capable?" After Madame Yao walked around the house twice, she suddenly said to Nanny Qian, go and call that Gu Xian'er over. Yes, Nanny Qian quickly replied and left. Chapter 210. Don't like that. Ever since Gu Xian'er returned from the Gu family, she had been promoted as a second-class maid. She guessed that it was probably because Nanny Qian had told her about her relationship with Gu Yundong that young madam had such intentions. Perhaps she wanted her to help do something. However, young madam did not see her much after that. This made Gu Xian'er feel a little conflicted. Fortunately, as a second-class maid, her work became much easier. Her monthly salary was also raised, and she even had the time to dress up. She even understood a lot of things in the Peng residence. For example, young madam was a jealous and scheming person, and concubine Xiao was favored. Young master liked women with curves. Be it concubines or servant girls, they were all this type. Unexpectedly, Nanny Qian came over today to say that young madam was looking for her. Gu Xian'er tidied her clothes and hair before following Nanny Qian to the Rui garden obediently. There was no one else in Madame Yao's house other than her. When she saw Gu Xian'er, she looked up slightly. Have a seat. Gu Xian'er was flattered and carefully sat down on a chair at the side. A trace of disdain flashed across Madame Yao's eyes. She took a sip of tea and asked, I heard that you and that girl called Gu Yundong are cousins? Yes, young madam. Gu Yundong is indeed my cousin. It's just that, she hesitated. She doesn't have a good relationship with me. Then how well do you know her? Do you think the young master will like her? Gu Xian'er was stunned. For some reason, she felt excited. However, she still looked like she was thinking carefully. After a moment, she said uncertainly, I don't think so. Young madam, my cousin used to be very weak. I don't know what happened on her way to escape. She has changed a lot. Oh. What's changed? It's just that she's bold. In the past, she cried at the drop of a hat and didn't like to go out. But that day, when I saw her in Yongfu village, I felt that she wasn't messy at all. She talked to people in a very organized way and didn't look like a country girl at all. I don't know if someone taught her. She frowned and thought and answered as if she was not scheming at all. However, Madame Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. Did someone teach her? Then why do you think that young master won't like her? Gu Xian'er touched her head and said softly, I just think that she looks average. Be it her temperament or appearance, she's far inferior to madam. Young master would never like her. Moreover, if young master really likes her, why didn't he just take her as a concubine instead of letting her hang out with other men in that countryside? Is that so? Yes, so young madam doesn't need to care about her at all. Madame Yao chuckled softly and rubbed the lid of the cup with her fingers. But why do I feel that master seems to think highly of her? Well, Gu Xian'er thought for a moment and said, perhaps something happened between the two of them? Perhaps my cousin helped young master before? That's why young master looks at her differently. It might not be a romantic relationship. Otherwise, my cousin, who has been working so hard with her silly mother and young siblings, would have hurried into the manor to enjoy life after meeting someone like young master, right? Madame Yao nodded. What you said makes sense. Actually, it's very simple if you want to know what's going on between the two of them, Gu Xian'er said softly. Tell me. Chapter 211. How much did you earn? Gu Xian'er said, Young madam, you can invite my cousin to the residence and ask her personally. Will she answer honestly? Young madam, you're extremely smart. Regardless of whether she answers honestly or not, you will definitely get an answer. Madame Yao took a sip of tea and looked at Gu Xian'er with a faint smile. After a while, she nodded. That makes sense. All right, I understand. You can leave. Yes, I'll take my leave. Gu Xian'er went down. When she walked out of the Rui garden, she couldn't control the excitement on her face. Gu Yundong, oh Gu Yundong, this is the price you have to pay for not helping me. As soon as she left, Nanny Qian approached Madame Yao and whispered, young madam, this Gu Xian'er simply wants to use you to deal with that girl from the Gu family. After learning a few idioms, she actually tried to flatter her master. Of course I know. She thinks she's so smart, but she only knows how to play tricks. She's just a clown. Madame Yao sneered and looked down on Gu Xian'er. However, I do want to invite Shopkeeper Gu to the residence as a guest. Young madam, Madame Yao waved her hand. Gu Xian'er is right. No matter what relationship Shopkeeper Gu has with master, I will see something. Besides, I'll only invite her over as a guest and chat with her. As for the rest, isn't Gu Xian'er around? Let them fight. Nanny Qian beamed. Young madam is still the smartest. Alright, it's the Laba festival in 2 days. Send the Laba porridge to the Gu family and invite her over as a guest. Yes. Gu Yundong did not know that she had been targeted again. After opening the shop for a day, the white sugar was snatched up in the morning. The other sweets were almost gone. It was only halfway through the afternoon when she closed the door. At noon, Dong Xilan brought the 3 children back to Yongfu village with Luan. She was thinking about the work at the workshop. Although Gu Yundong said that he would still give her a salary for the entire day, Dong Xilan felt that she could not help with the shop in the afternoon. It was not good to take the salary for the entire day, so she insisted on going back to work. She went back, but Lu Wei didn't leave. Seeing that the shop was closed, he hurriedly came over. Quick, take a look at how much money we earned today. Gu Yundong glanced at him. You're an outsider. Why should I count the money in front of you? Lu Wei was speechless. Friendship over, friendship over. He turned around angrily and left. After taking 2 steps, he came back unwillingly. He glared and said, even if you didn't say it, I could have deduced it. How many caddies of sugar did she sell today and how many candies did she sell? Did she think he was blind? Gu Yundong gave him a thumbs up. Not bad. I thought you were just bragging to others. Turns out you know what you're doing. Lu Wei raised his eyebrows. After all, I'm the young master of the Lu family. Alright, hurry up and count. In fact, Gu Yundong already had an idea. After all, the price of white sugar was set there. In addition, almost everyone had 5 caddies today. She even saw some people buy another 5 caddies after buying 5 caddies. There were also many people who bought second-rate sweets. The shopkeepers next door thought that white sugar was too expensive. In addition, those rich young masters had it, so they simply bought second-rate sweets to try. Gu Yundong took out the money box and saw that it was filled with banknotes and silver pieces. She slowly took a deep breath. Chapter 212, Looking for the Shopkeeper 900 taels. There was actually 900 taels of silver. This white sugar was too profitable. Lu Wei swallowed his saliva. In fact, he had only estimated 500 taels in his heart at the beginning. He had calculated wrongly. Woo, however, this 900 taels of silver had to deduct the cost to be what she had earned today. Still, the cost was not high at all. Gu Yundong also secretly took a deep breath. Her eyes lit up. She was finally a millionaire. If she continued to work hard, she would become a billionaire. With money, Gu Yundong became much more generous. She gave 2 taels to everyone present. It's been hard on everyone today. Shao Qingyuan didn't even look at it and directly put away the silver. The 4 members of the Tong family held the silver and beamed with joy. Madame Yang thought for a moment and took a bite. Realizing that it was real, she handed it to Gu Yundong very preciously. Keep it. It won't be lost. Gu Yundong took it. Alright, let me know what you want to buy later. Gu Yunshu stared at the silver in his hand. It was 2 taels. This was 2 taels, a whole 2 taels of silver. The little guy chuckled and put the silver into a small bag in his bag. Yes, he would save it for now. In the future, if his family needed it urgently, he would hand it to his eldest sister. Gu Yunke tilted her head and stared at the silver. She did not know much about 2 taels of silver and did not even know what to buy. She gave it to Gu Yundong. "I'll give it to eldest sister." Lu Wei held the silver like a fool. He clearly had more than 1,000 taels of silver with him, but it was not as precious as these 2 taels of silver. He always felt that this was earned through his own hard work. The meaning was different. He put the silver aside and looked at Gu Yundong with sparkling eyes. "Gu girl, how about I be your shopkeeper? In the future, give me 2 taels of silver a day." Every day? That was 60 taels of silver a month. Which shopkeeper would be so expensive? He was robbing money. Gu Yundong smiled insincerely and said, "No, you're the eldest young master of the Lu family. You have millions of assets waiting for you to inherit. How can I trouble you with just 2 taels of silver? It's too much of a waste of your talent." "It's all right. I don't mind the small amount of money. Anyway, I don't rely on that bit of salary to live." Lu Wei waved his hand, looking very nonchalant. Shao Qingyuan glanced at him. "We despise you." Gu Yundong nodded vigorously. Indeed, someone who spoke the truth needed to wake up this wastrel. Lu Wei almost spat out a mouthful of blood. "Why? Your price is too high. We can't afford it." "How is it high? Look at how much money you earned in a day." 2 taels of silver is not even a fraction. "Forget it, 1 tael is fine." Shao Qingyuan ignored him. He turned to Gu Yundong and said, "But the shop is indeed short of a shopkeeper and clerks. We can't let you look after the shop every day. Unfortunately, my father isn't around." Gu Dajiang had once been an accountant in a restaurant and had some experience. He was actually the most suitable candidate. Lu Wei stomped his feet at the side. "I already said that I'll be the shopkeeper." Shao Qingyuan thought for a moment and said, "I have a suitable candidate." Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. "Who?" "Me." Lu Wei shouted, "You'll regret it if you don't invite me. I have a lot of connections in this county." Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong looked at each other and gave the Tong brothers a look at the same time. The 2 of them quickly dragged Lu Wei away. Chapter 213, Deal. Only then did the 2 of them calm down. Shao Qingyuan said, "I used to work for an escort agency in town." He had no land in Yongfu village. Other than hunting in the mountains, he went to the county city or prefectural city to do short-term work. That escort agency was not big, and the escorts were only short distance. Most of them were between the prefectural city and the county city. The furthest was between the 2 neighboring prefectural cities. Shao Qingyuan was quite skilled. The head of the escort company really wanted him to stay in the escort company, but he didn't agree. However, he had also helped with 2 short-range escorts and everyone in the escort company knew him. Chief Escort has an elder brother. He used to be the shopkeeper of a large family in the prefectural city. Later on, that old master passed away. His 2 sons fought to the death. In the end, not only did the family collapse, but that shop was also sold. Uncle Zheng returned to the county city. He has nothing to do now. Gu Yundong lowered her eyes and thought for a while. "Is this person reliable?" "Reliable," he replied without hesitation. Gu Yundong nodded. "All right, if you say he's reliable, then he's reliable. Then it's him." Shao Qingyuan saw that she trusted him without hesitation, and his heart suddenly swelled. He secretly took a deep breath. "I'll go find him now." "Okay." It was still early, and the escort agency was not far from here. Shao Qingyuan returned not long after he left. Uncle Zheng was not very old. He looked to be in his 40s and looked very energetic. His family ran an escort agency, and it seemed that he had also practiced martial arts. This was even better. She wasn't afraid of people causing trouble. Zheng had been a shopkeeper for more than 10 years and was a steady person. When he saw that his boss was a little girl in her teens, he was only surprised for a moment. He did not look down on her. Instead, he said with admiration, "Qingyuan told me about it on the way. I really didn't expect such a rare thing to exist in this world. My boss is really capable." He paused for a moment and said, "But you might not know that I used to be a shopkeeper in a cloth shop. The things I sold were different, and I might not be able to meet your requirements. If you're worried, you can let me try to be a shopkeeper for half a month first. If you're not satisfied, feel free to change me." Yundong raised her eyebrows. He knew about the probation period. It won't take half a month. 3 days will be enough. As the saying goes, 1 round is all it takes. Uncle Zheng used to be the shopkeeper of the cloth shop. In 3 days, you will definitely be proficient in being the shopkeeper of Gus. I will come to Gus for the next 3 days. If there's anything you need to know about the shop, you can just ask me. Zheng smiled. The boss thinks highly of me. I, Zheng, will definitely not let you down. As for the monthly salary, it's temporarily set at 5 taels of silver. If you do it well, I will increase it. She had some understanding. The prices and wages in the county city were not comparable to the prefectural city. Most of the shopkeepers here only had 3 to 4 taels of silver a month. Of course, a big restaurant like the Liu family's was different. However, if she did well, she would not treat the shopkeeper badly. Zheng immediately nodded. All right. When he was a shopkeeper in the prefectural city, he only earned 5 taels a month. He had worked for many years before raising it by 2 taels. After agreeing on the time for work the next day, Zheng went back. Now that the shopkeeper had been confirmed, she still needed a waiter. This waiter did not necessarily need to be experienced. With Zheng leading him, it was not a big problem to help move the goods in the shop and entertain the customers. The most important thing was to be clever. At the mention of cleverness, a person flashed across Yundong's mind. Chapter 214, Zhuangzi. Yundong's mouth twitched at the thought of this person. However, after thinking about it, she still felt that he was the most suitable. Therefore, after returning to the village at night, she went straight to the Shi family. When the parents of the Shi family saw her coming, they were stunned for a moment, thinking that she was looking for them for the matter in the field. Unexpectedly, Yundong was looking for Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi had never been at home, especially recently. He often left after eating in the morning with a few steamed buns and only returned when it was dark. Shi asked a few times, but he couldn't get anything out of him, so he let him be. In any case, ever since he stopped hanging out with Hu Liang, there had been no rumors of him sneaking around. The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. She could roughly guess where Zhuangzi had gone. However, before she could look for him, Lan Huar said, "I know where my brother is. I'll go look for him." With that, Lan Huar ran off. Yundong could only continue to wait at the Shi residence. Sure enough, not long after, Zhuangzi ran back while panting. "Miss Gu, why are you looking for me?" He had been working hard recently. Although Yundong had not told him to keep an eye on Zhao Dafa, he felt that Madame Feng and Zhao Dafa must have something going on. He wanted to find out about their affair no matter what. Therefore, other than spying on Madame Feng and her daughter, he also had to visit Zhao Dafa from time to time. He was so busy that he didn't even have time to eat. But damn it, the two of them had only met once. He didn't know if it was because they had fallen out last time, but there had been no movement since then. Zhuangzi was very worried. If he had known, he would have called the entire village over the last time he saw them alone. He had missed an opportunity. Recently, he had been wondering if he should matchmake them and make them reconcile. Only then could he catch them in the act. Yundong had no idea what he was thinking. She only felt that Zhuangzi seemed to have lost some weight and looked more haggard. It seemed that he was indeed very professional and did his best to do what she instructed him to do. She was relieved. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. It's like this, Zhuangzi. I opened a shop in the county city and I want to find a smart shop assistant. Are you willing to go? What? Not only Zhuangzi, but the other 3 members of the Shi family widened their eyes. Especially Shi and his wife, their faces were filled with disbelief. They had never thought that their son, who was always away from home and hated by the entire village, would one day be personally invited to be a shop assistant. Zhuangzi was also stunned. He blinked and wondered if he had heard wrongly. I've been invited to work as a shop assistant? How could a rotten person like him, who couldn't even be a short-term worker when he went to town, become a shop assistant? For some reason, he felt like crying. Zhuangzi turned around abruptly and wiped his face forcefully with his sleeve. Gu Yundong laughed. What's wrong? Are you unwilling? Yes, of course. Zhuangzi immediately turned around. His eyes were still a little red, but he hurriedly nodded. The Shi couple and Lan Hua nodded vigorously. He's willing. Well, the salary is 1 tael a month for the time being. If you do well, we will increase it. If you agree, you can follow me to the county tomorrow. There's a courtyard there that you can stay in. You can come back if you want. If it's too late and you're too tired, you can stay in the shop. Zhuangzi nodded vigorously. 1 tael of silver. He had heard that the shop assistants in the workshop only earned 500 copper coins. Actually, he also wanted to go to the workshop, but Gu Yundong wanted honest and reliable people. He admitted that he was not. Besides, he still had to keep an eye on Madame Fong and Zhao Dafa. At the thought of this, Zhuangzi suddenly reacted. Then Madame Fong. Chapter 215. 2 people he was most afraid of. Gu Yundong interrupted him. No need. You can come early tomorrow. He had been watching Madame Fong and her daughter for almost a month. Other than asking Zhao Dafa to steal from her house, there was nothing else. Now that her house was guarded by the Tong family, she was not afraid that Madame Fong would find someone to sneak into their house. Besides, there was no reason to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. Her initial thought was to keep an eye on them for a month. Zhuangzi immediately agreed. After Gu Yundong left, he reached out and slapped himself hard. Then, he asked his parents, "Am I dreaming?" It's not a dream. You can really become a worker in the county city. Shi Dashan's honest face was filled with excitement. He patted his shoulder heavily with his rough palm. He also nodded repeatedly. Her son was finally promising. 1 tael of silver a month. Your father and I also have a salary every month now. Now that you have something serious to do, you can get married soon. In the past, her poor son did not have a good reputation. He idled around all day and the matchmakers would take a detour when they saw him. Now, she could even imagine the scene of her hugging her grandson in the near future. Zhuangzi took a deep breath and looked at his parents. He suddenly realized that they were different from before. That's right. Ever since they helped the Gu family manage the orchard, the 2 of them had been in high spirits and full of energy. Now that he had work to do, their lives would get better in the future. In the end, he looked at Lan Hua and saw that her face was red and excited. He immediately smiled. Wait for me to save up your dowry. The next day, Zhuangzi changed into his best set of clothes and waited at the entrance of the Gu residence before dawn. When Gu Yundong went out, she was almost shocked by the figure in the corner. She thought that Madame Fong had found someone to spy on her as soon as she asked Zhuangzi to come back. When she saw who it was, she wanted to kick him out. Zhuangzi chuckled. Miss Gu. No, boss, do we have to leave? Gu Yundong asked Gu Yunshu, who was also going to school, to get into the carriage before sizing him up. Then, she frowned slightly. Although Zhuangzi was wearing the best clothes, there were still 2 patches on the corner of his shirt. This wouldn't do. The shop assistant was the face of the shop. If he wore patched clothes, others would think that she was abusing her employees and it would affect her reputation. It seemed that she had to think about the work clothes. She asked Zhuangzi to get into the carriage too. The latter shook his head and sat beside Father Tong. "I'll sit outside with the old man." Yundong did not try to persuade him anymore. Then, Zhuangzi watched as Qingyuan came out of the Shao family's house. When he saw him sitting on the shaft of the carriage, the guy naturally entered the carriage. Zhuangzi's eyes widened and he shuddered violently. No, he couldn't be afraid. What was there to be afraid of? He hadn't offended Qingyuan. Right, I heard that the workshop is half Qingyuan's, so he also has a share in this shop. Does that mean he's my boss too? The two people he was most afraid of were actually his bosses. How did he end up in such a situation? Why did he take things so hard? Ah. The carriage entered the county city. Yundong first sent her brother to school, then went to the clothing store and asked Zhuangzi to choose suitable clothes. Zhuangzi was extremely excited. Gift? I can choose anything. Qingyuan's cold gaze shot at him. Zhuangzi suddenly shivered and felt a chill on his neck, as if he would be separated from his head at any time. He moved to the side weakly. Chapter 216, Uninvited Guest. Yundong glared at him. Dream on. Do you want to choose silk? Just choose something that looks clean, neat, warm, and without patches. Zhuangzi nodded, but he was still very happy. At least he had new clothes to wear. Seeing that he had gone to choose, Yundong said to Qingyuan, help shopkeeper Zheng choose a set too. Since Zhuangzi has been given work clothes, it doesn't make sense that the shopkeeper doesn't have them. See which one is suitable. Work clothes? Qingyuan's expression softened. Yes. Yundong pointed at Zhuangzi. We can't let him wear those clothes to entertain the guests, right? Treat it as a benefit in our shop. Our shop. Qingyuan's expression brightened. All right, I'll choose. The clothes given to the shopkeeper were definitely different from the shop assistants. Qingyuan estimated Jinggang's figure and quickly chose a set for him. Zhuangzi returned very quickly. He was still a little apprehensive, but seeing that Yundong had no objections and readily paid, he became happy again. When they arrived at the shop, Jinggang was already waiting there. Yundong asked him to take Zhuangzi to tidy up the counter while she went to the backyard and opened one of the rooms. After a while, she let them in to move the inventory here. Actually, there was no stock at all. She had just taken it out of her spatial storage. There was no one guarding the shop. How could she dare to leave it here? In the future, she planned to send someone to deliver it every day, so her family might need to buy a mule cart. After arranging the goods, Yundong opened the door. The guests outside the door had arrived early. How could 5 caddies of white sugar be enough yesterday? This morning, they had sent the servants to buy it. Even some of the owners in the surrounding shops wanted it. After all, Jinggang had many years of work experience. At first, he was not used to it, but after a while, he was at ease and quickly got to work. Zhuangzi was inexperienced, but he was indeed quite smart and full of energy. He worked very hard in his studies and welcomed people with a smile the entire day. Although the smile at the beginning made Yundong feel that it was very wretched. In addition, with Qingyuan holding the fort, the order was still very stable today. Yundong knew that there would definitely be a lot of customers for white sugar during the first 3 days. Some people would repeatedly buy a few more kilograms, or give them away, or sell them in the prefectural city. Yundong could not care less. The amount she produced was limited, and it was only a small matter. The imperial court was the main force, and they did not care about her small amount of candy. After a busy day, Yundong was quite satisfied with Jinggang and Zhuangzi. However, during lunch, she saw Zhuangzi take out 2 hard and cold pancakes from his pocket and her eyebrows could not help but twitch. There was a kitchen in the backyard of the shop. Gu Yundong could just let them use it. Surprisingly, Zhuangzi actually knew how to cook. Although it was average, he would not starve to death. Gu Yundong thought for a moment and gave them an extra 500 copper coins to buy the ingredients and cook for themselves. It could be considered free lunch. 500 copper coins was completely enough. Zhuangzi was extremely excited, and so was Zheng. He had originally asked his wife to deliver lunch to him every day. The next day was the Laba festival. Gu Yundong asked the Tong family's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law to make a large pot of Laba porridge for the holiday. She also planned to go to the shop and stay for half a day before coming back. Zheng and Zhuangzi were basically fine. However, just as she was about to go home, an uninvited guest came to the shop. Chapter 217. Finally here it was Nanny Qian. She carried a basket with a smile. This is Laba porridge. Young madam asked me to send it over. Miss Gu has just arrived in Fengkai County. You can try our local Laba porridge and see if it's any different from yours. Gu Yundong was a little surprised. Why did Madame Yao send her Laba porridge? However, Nanny Qian quickly resolved her doubts. Young madam said that she came to Gus with young master to celebrate Miss Gus opening a few days ago. She hit it off with Miss at first sight. Unfortunately, there were many guests that day and business was booming. Miss was busy, so our young madam didn't have the chance to talk to Mississippi. As Nanny Qian spoke, she took out an invitation. Seeing that Miss' shop has stabilized over the past few days, young madam wants to invite Miss into the residence as a guest. Coincidentally, there's a plum garden in the Peng residence. At this time of the year, the plum blossoms are blooming. Young madam sent me over to send Miss an invitation. Please don't decline. Huh? Gu Yundong asked. Guest? Invite her to the Peng residence to admire the plum blossoms? No. She didn't have any romantic cells in her. She was a vulgar person who only wanted to earn money every day and didn't have time to admire the flowers. She had no intention of interacting with Madame Yao. Gu Yundong wanted to refuse, but Nanny Qian seemed to have seen through her intentions and added, Miss Gus' cousin, Gu Xian'er, also misses you quite a lot. It's just that it's not convenient for her to come out at will now. Miss Gu, you can go and visit her and catch up with her. Gu Yundong swallowed his words. She knew it. She hated it when these rich families beat around the bush. Couldn't you just use Gu Xian'er's name to look for her? Gu Yundong accepted the Laba porridge and invitation. Your young madam is so sincere in inviting me. I'll definitely go. Thank you. Nanny Qian's mission was completed, and her smile became more sincere. Then I'll go back first. Miss, no need to see me off. Gu Yundong smiled. Seeing that she had left, Zhuangzi came over. Boss, our shop is too popular. Even the Peng family has sent you Laba porridge. He had truly felt the business of the past 2 days. If not for the purchase quota, their sugar might have been sold out the moment the shop opened. Gu Yundong held the invitation card in her hand and handed the Laba porridge to Zhuangzi. Just nice, you can share this Laba porridge. For us to eat? Yeah. Zhuangzi couldn't wait to open the lid. His eyes lit up. The Laba porridge in Peng Manor was indeed different. There were many ingredients such as river rice, white fruit, walnut kernels, chestnuts, red dates, longan, and so on. To Zhuangzi, it was even more sumptuous than the spring festival's food. Gu Yundong also glanced at it, then retracted her gaze and went back with the invitation. Zhuangzi immediately went to find bowls and chopsticks to share with Zheng. Yongfu village was very lively. The Laba festival was a day to worship ancestors and gods and pray for a bumper harvest and auspicious luck. Every family had more or less prepared Laba porridge. Even if the ingredients were not rich, it had to be done. The workshop was not on holiday, but the Laba porridge that Gu Yundong had asked the Tong family's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law to cook in the morning was very sweet. She gave everyone in the workshop a big bowl to bring back. Everyone in the workshop looked at the full bowl of laba porridge and their smiles never faded. As expected, working in the Gu family's workshop was simply too good. After eating the porridge, they worked even harder. Gu Yundong had been busy for 2 days and had almost forgotten the date she had agreed on with Madame Yao. Chapter 218. Going to the Peng residence again this morning, Gu Yundong instructed Shao Qingyuan on some matters in his workshop and planned to go straight to the county city. Shao Qingyuan knew about Gu Xian'er's relationship with her and was worried. Gu Yundong laughed. "I'm not afraid of her. I'll deal with whatever comes my way. It's fine if she knows her place, but if she really dares to approach me, I can teach her how to behave." With that, she was about to leave with Gu Yunshu. Unexpectedly, this little fellow ran straight to the Zhong family. Not long after, he mysteriously carried a huge bag out and climbed into the carriage. Gu Yundong was surprised. "What are you bringing to school?" The kid blinked, as if wondering if he should tell her. Gu Yundong sighed. "You've grown up and have secrets with eldest sister." "Sigh, I'm sad." With a whoosh, Gu Yunshu immediately tore open the bag and pushed it in front of her. Gu Yundong's heartbroken expression disappeared in a second. She lowered her head and picked up the school bag on the bag. She looked up at Gu Yunshu. The latter was still surprised by the speed at which his eldest sister's expression changed. He looked conflicted. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Are you very short of school bags? Gu Yunshu was taken aback and quickly shook her head. No. These are for the other classmates in my school. As he spoke, he covered his mouth and laughed. On the first day I went to school, the other students liked my school bag very much and asked me who made it and wanted to buy it. I asked Aunt for help. A school bag costs 2 copper coins. I'll give Aunt 90 copper coins and I'll collect some intermediate fees. I have 40 copper coins now. In the future, when eldest sister doesn't have enough money, I'll give everything to you. Gu Yundong's eyes widened. F*ck, he actually knew how to do business at such a young age? He knew how to collect the intermediate fee and save money for her. How could there be such a sensible child? Gu Yundong rubbed his little head fiercely. Gu Yunshu shook his head and thought that she was angry. He quickly explained, "I told the teacher and he agreed. However, there are very few students in our school. Some students come from poor families, so they did not buy anything. These 4 people are very rich. One don't charge much. They also gave me the fabric themselves. Aunt was very happy. I told Aunt not to tell you." Gu Yundong carried the child over. "I'm not angry. I'm very happy with your actions. In the future, when you encounter such things, remember to tell the teacher in advance, okay?" The intermediate fee he charged was not high. Dong Shilan could earn 360 copper coins from 4 school bags, which was also a help to her family. When Gu Yunshu heard what she said, he hurriedly nodded. "Yes, I told Andy to make it better. They're even sturdier than mine. I also asked my classmates for their opinions. I did everything I could." The 2 of them chatted as the carriage entered the county city. She sent Gu Yunshu to school. When she saw him running away happily with his bag, she turned the carriage around and went to the Peng residence. Nanny Qian was already waiting at the door. When she saw her, she quickly welcomed her. "Miss, you're here. Please come in. Young madam has been talking about you since early in the morning and instructed me to wait here." As she spoke, she took a few more glances at her. Seeing that her hands were empty, she could not help but purse her lips. Those who came from the countryside were from the countryside. Who would come to visit without any gifts? She led Gu Yundong all the way to the Rui garden. As expected, Madame Yao was waiting for her at the door, looking expectant and happy. Chapter 219, Madame Yao wants to get information, you're finally here. Come in quickly. Nanny Qian, pour tea for Miss Gu. Madame Yao pulled her hand affectionately and walked inside. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. It was too incongruous to be so enthusiastic. Nanny Qian poured a cup of tea for Gu Yundong. Madame Yao said, there's also white sugar in this tea that Miss Gu bought. It's sweet and suitable for us women to drink. Miss Gu, try it? Then, she shook her head. It's too distant to call you Miss Gu. Can I call you Yundong? You can call me Sister Yao too. How about that? Fine by me. Gu Yundong took a sip of tea. She did not really drink it. Strange people in unfamiliar places were strangely enthusiastic. She would be a fool if she dared to eat her food. The moment she raised her hand to drink the tea, she poured the tea into her space. When she put down the teacup, she nodded slightly. It's quite delicious. Madame Yao smiled and said, there are also pastries and preserved fruits here. Yundong, don't stand on ceremony. As for me, the last time I saw you, I felt that you suited my taste. We're both straightforward people, so we'll definitely be able to talk together. It's also my master's fault. He knew you long ago and didn't think of introducing you to me. He didn't invite you over either. Last time at your house, he asked me to prepare a congratulatory gift. He didn't tell me in detail, causing me to not be able to get to know you sooner. Gu Yundong thought that Peng Zhongfei did not have the guts to speak nonsense. He would probably have nightmares at night. She was also polite. Young Master Peng is busy. Besides, I'm just a village girl. You're the madam of a big family. He was afraid that I'll offend you, right? No, he's very free. Madame Yao had a smile on her face. And he's full of praises for you. How could he be afraid that you would offend me? Praise? Peng Zhongfei must be crazy. Speaking of which, I still don't know how you met my master, Yundong. I asked my master, and he only said that he hadn't known you for long. Tell me, I'm quite curious. I've been married to my master for several years, but this is the first time I've seen him so protective of a little girl. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Very good. This was a very interesting question. How did they meet? She thought for a moment and said, actually, there's nothing special. It's just that I got to know young Master Lu first. One time, they were drinking tea together in the tea house and I happened to bump into him. Young Master Lu introduced me to him and we got to know each other. Young Master Peng is protecting me. Perhaps, he thinks I'm pitiful. Is that so? Madame Yao lowered her eyes and took a sip of tea. She nodded. Our master is indeed quite close to young Master Lu, but it's rare to drink tea in a tea house. Didn't they always meet in a brothel? Gu Yundong glanced at her slightly tightened fingers from the corner of her eye and sighed secretly. If you don't believe me, don't ask me. She didn't know what Peng Zhongfei said to her, but it seemed that no matter how she responded, it would make her unhappy. Madame Yao said a few more words to her before saying, Yundong, take a seat first. I'm going to change. I'll be back in a while. When the time comes, we'll go to the plum garden to see the plum blossoms. Okay. Gu Yundong watched her leave with a smile. Madame Yao went out, and Nanny Qian followed behind. As soon as the two of them left the Rui garden, Madame Yao's expression changed. She's just a country girl. She's quite pretentious. She even stammered when I asked her questions. It's obvious that she has something on her mind. Madame Yao stood outside the courtyard and glared inside. Chapter 220, Gu Xian'er's plan. Nanny Qian quickly comforted her. Young madam, don't lower yourself to her level. She's unruly and doesn't know anything. I think she's very smug. I said that master was protecting her, and she shamelessly admitted it. Pitiful. Concubine Xia also said that she was pitiful back then, but in the end, she was brought into the residence by young master. Is she hinting to me that she will enter the residence one day? Nanny Qian nodded repeatedly and echoed. Her thoughts were seen through by young madam at a glance. Madame Yao was furious. In the past, there was a concubine Xia who would beat around the bush and refuse to speak honestly. In the end, she turned around and complained to her master. This Gu Yundong was the same as concubine Xia. They were not good people. I asked her how she got to know master. She even deliberately mentioned young Master Lu to suppress me. She's very smug about knowing young Master Lu. The more Madame Yao spoke, the angrier she became. She took 2 deep breaths before calming down. Nanny Qian did not dare to speak. Madame Yao slowly calmed down and asked softly, "Young madam, what should we do next?" "Then where is Gu Xian'er?" "Over by the plum gardens." Madame Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. "Have you found out what Gu Xian'er wants to do?" At the mention of this, Nanny Qian could not help but sneer. She's stupid and poisonous. She found the scar-faced servant in the residence who poured the night utensils and wanted that servant to break the Gu girl's body and make the 2 of them a couple. Nanny Qian had been keeping an eye on Gu Xian'er for the past few days because she wanted to know her plan. She didn't expect that after thinking about it, the girl would come up with such a bad idea. She didn't even think about it. If young master really valued the Gu girl, he would definitely investigate what happened in the residence. The first person to be punished would be Gu Xian'er. Those who came from the countryside were from the countryside. Even after staying in the residence for a few months, they were still like this. Except, young madam, will this matter implicate you? Madame Yao said nonchalantly, I only invited Gu Yundong over as a guest. It was the 2 sisters who had a conflict. The one who committed the crime will be Gu Xian'er. What has it got to do with me? At most, it'll be reprimanded by master. Would he punish me for a broken girl? With that, Madame Yao returned to the Rui garden. When she saw Gu Yundong sitting there quietly, she immediately smiled. Sister Yundong, you've waited for a long time. Let's go. The plum garden is over there and not far away. It's a good season for plum blossoms to bloom. The scenery is extremely beautiful. Gu Yundong followed her to the plum garden and indeed saw Gu Xian'er there. Seeing this, Madame Yao smiled and said, I heard that the 2 of you are cousins. You've been separated for so long, so you must have a lot to talk about. Why don't you take a walk in the plum garden? I won't disturb you anymore. I'll go over there and pick a few plum blossoms. Gu Xian'er was about to agree. But Gu Yundong shook her head and said, no need. Sister Yao probably doesn't know. Although she and I are cousins, our relationship has never been good, so there's nothing much to say. I'll go pick plum blossoms with Sister Yao. I wonder if it's convenient for me to bring a few back. Gu Xian'er, Madame Yao was speechless. Nanny Qian was also speechless. However, Gu Yundong was the first to walk into the garden. She looked slightly happy. Why do I have to listen to you? Do I have to jump down obediently even though I know it's a trap? Madame Yao frowned deeply. If Gu Yundong was not alone with Gu Xian'er, how could they fight? Gu Xian'er was furious. She had already made arrangements. Why couldn't Gu Yundong be more obedient? Chapter 221. Peng is here. The 4 of them had different thoughts and could only walk into the plum garden together. Gu Yundong quite liked this place. The Peng family was indeed rich and imposing. They had actually opened up such a large plum garden. In the future, when she had money, she would also get a plum garden or peach blossom forest. It would definitely be very comfortable. Madame Yao was not in the mood to admire the flowers behind her. From the corner of her eye, she saw Gu Xian'er, who was far behind. She could not help but feel angry. What a useless thing. As she was thinking, she suddenly saw her maid, Zhenzhu, rush over from behind. She did not look too good. Madame Yao stopped in her tracks. Zhenzhu whispered into her ear, young madam, young master heard that Miss Gu was here and insisted on coming over. We couldn't stop him. Madame Yao's expression suddenly turned ugly. Didn't you say that he left early in the morning? He just came back. Zhenju lowered her voice. When Miss Gu came over, she happened to be seen by a servant in young master's courtyard. Young master immediately knew when he returned. He didn't even return to the courtyard and came straight here. Madame Yao glanced at Gu Yundong with a dark expression. Master indeed treated her differently. She secretly took a deep breath, squeezed out a smile and said to Gu Yundong, Sister Yundong, master is here. I'll go and say a few words. I'll be back soon. Peng Zhongfei is here. Before Gu Yundong could reply, Madame Yao had already left in a hurry. After a while, the sound of voices could be heard. It was not far away, and one could vaguely hear Peng Zhongfei's raised pitch. Why did it sound like they were about to quarrel? Gu Yundong thought about it and did not go over. She waited quietly for a moment. On the other side, Madame Yao almost quarreled with Peng Zhongfei. As soon as she left the plum garden, she saw her master standing in the pavilion and looking over. She tried her best to suppress the anger in her heart and squeezed out a smile to welcome him. When Peng Zhongfei saw that she was alone, he frowned and asked, Where's the Gu girl? Didn't they say she was here? Madame Yao closed her eyes slightly and reminded herself that her master had always been like this. She was already used to it. Master, don't scare my esteemed guest. Look at how travel-worn you are. You should go back and tidy up first. Sister Yundong will be having lunch here. If you have anything to say it later. Peng Zhongfei did not want to wait. He happened to have something urgent to talk to Gu Yundong at the moment and did not have the patience to return to his courtyard. Besides, wasn't he quite neat and clean? Hence, he waved his hand and said to Madame Yao, Since the Gu family's girl is having lunch at home, go tell the kitchen to make some delicious food. Draft the menu yourself. I have something to discuss with the Gu family's girl. Madame Yao could not hold the smile on her face at all. Just as she was about to retort, Nanny Qian suddenly tugged at her. Young madam, young master must have something to discuss with Shopkeeper Gu. Let's get the kitchen to make a few dishes from Shopkeeper Gu's hometown for the guest to try. That's right. Go ahead. Peng Zhongfei waved his hand. Madame Yao received Nanny Qian's signal and could only leave the plum garden with her hand in hers. As soon as she went out, she said unhappily, Why did you ask me to come out? They're left alone, young madam, isn't this just nice? Let's keep Gu Xian'er here too. Well, find an excuse to lure young master out later so that Gu Xian'er can make a move. In that case, if anything happens to Gu Yundong, young master can't blame you. Madame Yao thought about it and agreed. If something happened to Gu Yundong right under master's nose, would master blame her for not entertaining the guest well? Chapter 222, Gu Xian'er takes action. Madame Yao smiled and asked Zhenju to come over. She instructed her in a low voice, Go and find Xian'er, who is by Concubine Xiao's side. Tell her to tell Concubine Xiao about master and Gu Yundong being alone in the plum garden. Young madam, you're killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Nanny Qian smiled until the wrinkles on her face moved. Madame Yao took a handkerchief and laughed softly. Let's go to the kitchen and prepare a feast to entertain the esteemed guest according to master's instructions. Yes. The master and servant walked further and further away. As for Gu Yundong, she walked out of the forest just as Madame Yao and Peng Zhongfei's conversation ended. Unfortunately, she was still a step too late. There was no sign of Madame Yao outside. There was only Peng Zhongfei, whose eyes lit up when he saw her. Gu Yundong secretly held his forehead. Where's your wife? Oh, I sent her to the kitchen to arrange the dishes. I have something to discuss with you. She's a hindrance. Gu Yundong was speechless. Damn, this person's eek must be negative. No wonder Madame Yao looked at him as if he was an enemy. It was simply because this person had it coming. He was shameless, but she still wanted her reputation. It was one thing to have a scandal with others, but with Peng Zhongfei? No, she didn't want to. He had no looks and no character. Yundong turned around and left, completely ignoring him. However, Peng Zhongfei really had something on and followed behind her. Don't leave. I want to talk to you about the workshop. Yundong stopped in her tracks. Forget it. If she wanted to go out directly, she did not know which way to go. There were people coming and going outside the plum garden. There would be more rumors when they saw them. Madame Yao had already let them be alone. They had probably already decided in their hearts. She simply walked to the pavilion and sat down. Peng Zhongfei immediately sat opposite her. I didn't have a chance to talk properly in your shop last time. There's a question I've been wanting to ask for a long time. When did you become so familiar with Lu Wei? Didn't you just meet for the first time in my residence last time? Yundong suddenly sat up straight. Was he, suspecting what had happened last time? She looked up at Peng Zhongfei and met his sincere gaze. Then, she confirmed that, he was just really curious. Yundong coughed lightly and said, didn't Lu Wei find someone to bring him into the mountains to hunt some time ago? The person he found happened to be my neighbor. After a while, we became familiar with each other. Peng Zhongfei nodded. This topic was over. But did you really not collaborate with the Lu family in your sugar business? No. Peng Zhongfei leaned forward. Then how about we cooperate? Yundong gave him a strange look. The Peng family should know who was taking the bulk of the sugar benefits now, right? How dare he say that? However, Peng Zhongfei was different from what she thought. I heard that your workshop hasn't been built yet? Yundong was about to nod when she saw a figure walking over from the corner of her eye. She looked up and saw Xian'er carrying 2 cups of tea over. Peng Zhongfei also saw it and was instantly dissatisfied. Didn't I tell you all to go down? Xian'er lowered her head obediently. Young madam instructed this servant to serve young master and the esteemed guest well. This servant is just here to serve tea. Peng Zhongfei was a little thirsty, so he nodded. Yundong saw that the colors of the 2 cups of tea were different. She thought for a moment and asked, what tea is this? This is Qihong. Young master's is pure tea. Yundong swapped the 2 cups of tea. I've never had pure before. Young master Peng, do you mind exchanging with me? Chapter 223:1 Advise you to be a human. Peng Zhongfei didn't care at all. What's wrong with that? You haven't drunk pure before. Coincidentally, I have it at home. I'll get the servants to prepare some for you later. You can take it back and drink it slowly. Yundong thanked him and picked up the cup of pure tea. From the corner of her eye, she saw Xian'er's motionless expression. Huh? She changed the tea, but Xian'er was actually indifferent. Could it be that she was wrong and Xian'er did not tamper with the tea? On the other side, Peng Zhongfei had already picked up Qihong and taken 2 sips. Yundong also covered the tea with her sleeves and poured all the tea into the space. Xian'er was satisfied and left with a smile. Yundong narrowed her eyes slightly. Xian'er must have done something, but she did not seem to mind that the 2 of them had changed teacups. Then there was only one possibility. There was something wrong with both cups of tea. With Xian'er's guts, she definitely wouldn't dare to harm Peng Zhongfei. There shouldn't be anything in the tea that would harm his life. Yundong thought about it and felt that there was a 50% chance that she had added something arousing. If that was really the case, Xian'er wanted something to happen between her and Peng Zhongfei. Then, Peng Zhongfei might take her in. Coupled with Madame Yao's personality, she might be jealous and kill her out of jealousy. Yundong was disgusted by Xian'er's actions. However, there was one thing that she could not figure out. Did Madame Yao know about Xian'er's plan? What are you thinking about? I'm talking to you. Peng Zhongfei's irritable voice sounded in her ears. Yundong suddenly came back to her senses. Oh, are you asking me about the workshop? I'm listening. Our workshop has indeed not been built yet. What do you mean by cooperating with me? Peng Zhongfei was slightly satisfied. Then, he said mysteriously, your workshop hasn't been built yet. It's just nice. I just got a workshop. It's not far from your village. How about I let you use it? But can you sell me more white sugar? I need at least 50 kilograms a day. 5 kilograms is too little, 50 kilograms. When he sold it, he did not know how much money he could earn. The higher-ups meant that they could not get involved in Yundong's sugar business, but this was a normal transaction and was not against the rules. Yundong exclaimed, a workshop not far from our village? Did you buy it? Pfft, that's right. I bought it. I spent 10 taels of silver and got something for free. I got a workshop and the owner gave his daughter to me as a concubine. His disdainful expression was very annoying. Yundong could not help but frown. She felt that there was something wrong with his words. Looking at Peng Zhongfei's smug expression and thinking about how he wanted to forcefully occupy her blueprint, a bad feeling surged in her heart. Don't tell me you bought it forcefully. Not only did you occupy his workshop, but you also want his daughter to be your concubine? Peng Zhongfei snorted coldly. It's that family who doesn't know what's good for them. I was polite before resorting to force. I came personally to propose with sincerity and even promised to give them 50 taels of silver. In the end, they actually dared to take out a broom and beat me out. Fine, they refused a toast only to drink a forfeit. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. F***ck, you're actually very proud of yourself for doing such a shameless thing? Indeed, a dog can't change its habit of eating shit. Yundong resisted the urge to beat him to death and planned to persuade him to be human. In the end, a maid ran over and panted. Young master, concubine Xia has fainted. Peng Zhongfei was speechless. He silently turned to look at Yundong. Why is it that every time you come to my house, something happens? He is probably telling you not to do evil. Yundong pointed to the top of her head. God is everywhere. Peng Zhongfei suddenly stood up. I'll return the workshop and that concubine. Damn it, luckily I haven't touched her yet. Seeing that the maidservant was still standing at the side, he immediately shouted, what are you waiting for? Get a doctor for the concubine. Chapter 224, Returning you a concubine. The maidservant trembled. She was a little afraid of Peng Zhongfei and quickly ran away. Peng Zhongfei took a deep breath and almost fell down the stairs. He thought that his guilty conscience had caused his limbs to go limp. However, after taking a few steps, even her eyes were a little blurry, and her breathing became hurried. When they reached the entrance of the plum garden, Xian'er ran out of nowhere. Young master, are you all right? I'll help you back to your room to rest. Peng Zhongfei nodded randomly. He also realized that something was wrong with himself. However, he felt that this must be the old man in the sky punishing him. He was so afraid that he was about to die. He was about to lose his mind when he instructed his servant, you, quickly let the woman I just brought back home. Return the workshop and give some silver to her. The servant held his other side and hurriedly nodded. I understand. Master, you look sick. Shall I call the doctor? Xian'er instantly became nervous. Just as she was about to find an excuse, Peng Zhongfei waved his hand. No need. I'm fine. Hurry up and do what I instructed. I'll be fine after resting for a while. Deep down, he felt that as long as he made up for her, he would be fine. Hurry up and go. I don't need your help. The servant could only let go and instruct Xian'er to take good care of the young master before running away in a hurry. Xian'er heaved a sigh of relief and quickly brought Peng Zhongfei to a house near the plum garden. After placing him on the bed, she hurriedly returned to the plum garden. Gu Yundong had actually seen the situation on Peng Zhongfei's side from afar. When she saw Gu Xian'er return, her guess was 70 to 80% confirmed. She immediately leaned against the pillar at the side and panted, her fingers trembling slightly. Gu Xian'er's face lit up. The plan had succeeded. Without another word, she helped Gu Yundong up. Seeing that she wanted to push her away, she hurriedly said, "Cousin, I know you don't like me, but look at you. You can't even walk now. I'm afraid you're not feeling well. Let me help you to rest and get a doctor for you." As she spoke, she pulled her forward roughly. Gu Yundong simply put her weight on Gu Xian'er and let the girl take her to the house where Peng Zhongfei was previously. Seeing that Peng Zhongfei had already started to strip, Gu Yundong completely understood Gu Xian'er's plan. "Cousin, enjoy it slowly." Gu Xian'er finally smiled sinisterly and threw Gu Yundong onto the bed. However, just as she was about to turn around and leave, she suddenly felt a pain in her back shoulder. Then, her body slowly fell back and she lost consciousness. Gu Yundong parted ways with her. She clapped her hands and tidied her clothes. Without even looking at Peng Zhongfei, who had already pounced on Gu Xian'er, she strode out of the room. "Since it's enjoyment, I'll leave it to you." Didn't Peng Zhongfei lack a concubine? She had to return one to him. He should be grateful to her. She just didn't know how Gu Xian'er would face Madame Yao's anger and concubine Xiao's methods after becoming the Peng family's concubine. Gu Yundong returned to the plum garden and started to pluck the branches excitedly. When she came out with a large bouquet of plum blossoms, Madame Yao still had not returned. She smiled. She really did not understand what Madame Yao was thinking. However, just as she reached the pavilion, a short man in servant clothes with a scar on his face and a wretched smile walked over. Chapter 225. Madame Yao has fainted. Gu Yundong had just frowned when she heard him ask, "You're Miss Gu, right? Are you feeling unwell? Do you feel very hot? Do you need my help?" As he spoke, he approached her. In the next moment, a stench assaulted her face. Gu Yundong was so frightened that she immediately took a step back. "Stop right there. Don't come over. I'm fine. I'm not feeling unwell. I don't need your help." The man frowned. The scar on his face became more distorted because of this action, and he looked a little fierce. Gu Yundong could not figure out where this person came from, but his question was very strange, as if he had guessed what would happen to her. Seeing that the man was coming forward again, Gu Yundong immediately walked out of the plum garden. The man immediately chased after her. Because of the smell on his body, Gu Yundong had no intention of fighting him. She broke into a run. Not far from the plum garden, she happened to see Madame Yao and her servant. However, the two of them were chatting and laughing. Instead of going to the plum garden, they went to the Rui garden. Gu Yundong sneered and rushed in front of Madame Yao. "Young madam, what do you mean? Is this how you entertain guests? It's fine if you left on your own, but your master has also left. I can't even find him in the plum garden. I even met such a strange person. It's fine if he stinks, but his brain isn't clear, and his words are incoherent. Young madam, even if you don't like me, you don't have to disgust me like this. Since I'm not welcome here, I'll go back now. I didn't even want to come." Madame Yao was shocked by the person who rushed in front of her. Before she could see clearly, she was shocked by her crackling sound and took a step back. When she finally understood what Gu Yundong meant, Gu Yundong had already flicked her sleeves and left. Madame Yao blinked and looked at her departing back. Then, she looked at the servant with a scar on his face. At this moment, this person had already slipped away. Madame Yao suddenly came back to her senses and quickly pointed at Nanny Qian. "Quick, get her back. I'll chase her now." Nanny Qian was also a little confused and chased after Gu Yundong. Madame Yao paced around for a while before she looked puzzled. "What's going on? Didn't Gu Xian'er have a plan? Why did Gu Yundong run out? Can't that servant even stop a person? Nanny Qian returned very quickly. With her old arms and legs, and she was already left behind, how could she catch up? When she ran out of the door, she was already gone. The more Madame Yao thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. She felt that something had vaguely exceeded her plan. She could not care less about Gu Yundong and hurriedly said to Nanny Qian, "Let's go to the plum garden to take a look." Nanny Qian was also worried. The two of them went to the plum garden. Before they entered, they saw a few servants surrounding the house not far away and pointing at it. Madame Yao's eyelids twitched as she rushed over. The voice inside was too familiar. Who else could it be other than Peng Zhongfei? Madame Yao almost fainted. Nanny Qian quickly asked the other servants to leave and pushed open the door herself. The room was in a mess. When she saw the people inside clearly, Madame Yao couldn't breathe and really fainted. Nanny Qian panicked, and the Peng residents instantly fell into chaos. Gu Yundong did not care about them. As soon as she left the Peng residence, she hurriedly got into the carriage and saw an unexpected person sitting inside. "Why are you here?" Chapter 226. Bringing news of the Peng residence. Shao Qingyuan couldn't be bothered to answer. However, when he saw her anxious expression, he immediately became nervous. "How are you? What could possibly happen to me?" "Then why did you?" It was as if someone was chasing after her. Gu Yundong waved her hand. "I'm not the one in trouble. Don't worry, well, just watch the show from now on." She didn't ask why Shao Qingyuan was here anymore. She felt that it might not be good to ask too much. However, it was undeniable that there was an indescribable joy in her heart. Seeing that she was indeed fine, Shao Qingyuan heaved a sigh of relief and changed the topic. "Do you want to go to the shop to take a look?" "Go ahead." She was in a good mood. Now that something like this had happened to Gu Xian'er, it was no longer a problem. The carriage drove in the direction of the shop. Only then did she realize that the streets were much livelier than before. All kinds of New Year goods had already been placed. There was a folk song circulating in old Beijing, "Children, children, don't be greedy. After Laba, it will be the new year." It seemed like everyone was already preparing for the new year. Gu Yundong thought of the villagers in the workshop. She turned to Shao Qingyuan and said, "The workers can only take 5 days off for the new year at most. I'm wondering if we should distribute some New Year goods to everyone. When we recruit people in the future, there will be more people who will sign up." Shao Qingyuan nodded. "When the time comes, we can buy some meat and some cloth. It's not good to give too much in the first year. It'll easily raise their appetite. If we give them too little in the future, they'll complain." Gu Yundong thought so too. When she earned more money in the future, she would slowly increase the benefits. The two of them discussed how much they should pay as they spoke. When they arrived at the shop, they saw Zhuangzi sending a customer out with a smile. He looked energetic. It seemed that he had been very happy as a shop assistant recently. When Zheng saw her coming over, he consciously told her about the situation in the shop and showed her the account book. Gu Yundong's eyes gradually brightened when she saw that the business in the shop was thriving. With the money, she planned to look for Gu Dajiang after the new year and visit Qing'an Prefecture first. In the following days, Gu Yundong became even busier. This was the first year since she arrived at Yongfu village. It was also the first year since she left the old Gu family and took charge. It was also the first year when she had money to buy New Year goods. Gu Yundong had bought everything early and even asked Gu Yunshu to ask Qin Wenjing for a few couplets. She even made 2 sets of new clothes for her family, including Shao Qingyuan. Yes, the Tong family also each had a set. The entire family was overjoyed and worked even harder. Gu Yundong was very satisfied with the Tong family. She thought that her business would definitely expand in the future, so she had the intention to train the Tong family. Hence, after finishing her work and eating, she would get Yunshu to teach everyone how to read. Yunshu clearly liked being a little teacher. His adult-like behavior amused Yundong. The Tong family was even more excited. It was very rare for servants to be able to read. Therefore, even though they had been busy for the entire day, they did not slack off at all when they studied. To Yundong's surprise, the one who had learned the best was the second son of the Tong family, the man who had never remarried and had almost no presence. She did not go to the Peng residence again, but she had agreed to watch the show. Naturally, she asked someone to pay attention to the commotion there. The best candidate was Lu Wei. After all, he was also a gossip. On the 23rd day, Lu Wei lived up to her expectations and brought her the aftermath of what happened that day, as well as Xian'er's end. Chapter 227, Xian'er's end. It was said that after Madame Yao fainted that day, she was actually found to be pregnant. It was said that Xian'er had become Peng Zhongfei's concubine. She was not Peng Zhongfei's type to begin with. He wanted a curvaceous woman. Xian'er's figure was average. She grew up in the countryside in the past and had not grown well. She was so shriveled that no one was interested. Moreover, her face was not outstanding. At the very least, although Yundong's figure did not meet his standards, her face was good-looking. However, Xian'er didn't have anything and didn't seem very smart. Peng Zhongfei despised her very much. He didn't even plan to give her the identity of a concubine. In any case, he was only sleeping with a maid. He did not sleep with just one maid in the residence. Did he have to be responsible for every one of them? Peng Zhongfei was a scumbag. He would abandon any girl he had slept with. However, Xian'er was indignant. She knew that there was no way to salvage the situation, especially since she was caught red-handed by Madame Yao. If she was just a maidservant, she believed that she would be a corpse tomorrow. Hence, she cried and told Peng Zhongfei that she was Yundong's cousin. Xian'er could tell that Peng Zhongfei definitely had feelings for Yundong. It was because of this that she changed her mind and drugged Peng Zhongfei. She was also afraid that if that servant broke Yundong's virginity, Peng Zhongfei would investigate thoroughly in anger. At that time, she would definitely be punished. Therefore, she changed her mind at the last minute and made Yundong Peng Zhongfei's concubine. She would also become a thorn in Madame Yao and concubine Xiao's side. This way, she did not have to do it herself. Yundong would be killed by these two people. Unexpectedly, she was the one who fell into the trap. Xian'er hated Yundong to death. If possible, she wanted to strangle her to death with her own hands. However, she did not have the time. She could not even take care of herself. How could she have the time to find trouble with Yundong? Her life was more important. She even had to use Yundong's name to save her life. What happened after that? Yundong could not help but twitch his lips. She did not expect Xian'er to be so quick-witted. However, as her protective umbrella, she felt very disgusted. Lu Wei said mysteriously, as the saying goes, "What makes you may also destroy you." Xian'er did use her identity as your cousin to become a concubine, but concubine Xia didn't know that your relationship wasn't good. She thought that the two of you had joined forces to enter the Peng residence to snatch her love. Therefore, concubine Xia felt that Xian'er was a huge problem. If she didn't get rid of her, Peng Zhongfei would be in the hands of the two sisters sooner or later. She would be completely thrown into the cold palace. How could she do that? Getting rid of Xian'er became the thing she needed to do the most. Not only did she want to get rid of Xian'er, but she also wanted to take the opportunity to deal with Madame Yao. Hence, Madame Yao lost her child because of Xian'er. Madame Yao hated her to death. However, Peng Zhongfei had only given her a small punishment because of Xian'er and Yundong. Madame Yao was not satisfied. She told Peng Zhongfei that the two of them were like fire and water. That day in the plum garden, Xian'er had wanted to set Yundong up with the servant who poured the urine. In the end, Gu Yundong was fine and she climbed into young master's bed. When Peng Zhongfei heard this, he was even more convinced that Gu Yundong had been blessed by someone to escape safely. After further investigation, Madame Yao was indeed telling the truth. Peng Zhongfei hated Gu Xian'er to the core and handed her over to Madame Yao to deal with. He originally wanted to punish Madame Yao. He was not a fool and naturally knew that there was something wrong with Madame Yao. However, she had already aborted the child. It was fine if she said a few words, but he completely hated Madame Yao. When Lu Wei said this, he even added with a smile, "Oh right, Peng Zhongfei also asked me to pass you a message." Chapter 228, New Year's Goods, What? Cough, he said that he was quite sorry that you had encountered such a thing in his residence. Lu Wei coughed lightly and said with a smile, "Strange, why didn't he come to tell you personally? What else could it be? He must be afraid of her. What if he was unlucky again?" Gu Yundong sighed deeply about the Peng family. In that case, Concubine Xia has become the biggest winner. Isn't that so? Lu Wei recalled the whole story and couldn't help but tremble. These women's methods are too terrifying. Fortunately, his father was a good person and there was no such mess in the family. Otherwise, with his innocent personality, he might not live past 3 years old. Shao Qingyuan glanced at him from the corner of his eye. No one knew who he was talking to. So, one wife is enough. Lu Wei nodded in agreement. Yes, that makes sense. I won't go to brothels in the future. This awareness was quite high. Could he bear to? After knowing about the Peng family, Gu Yundong began to focus on preparing for the new year. 23. Prepare sweet candies. 24. House cleaning day. 25. Fried tofu. 26. Stewed white meat. 27. Kill the rooster. 28. Prepare the flour. 29. Steamed buns. Although Gu Yundong did not strictly prepare these according to the folk songs, she was indeed busy every day. In the afternoon of the 29th, she asked the eldest son of the Tong family to push the cart to the Lu family's courtyard. The villagers in the workshop were very diligent and efficient. They had already received a month's salary. 500 copper coins was not a small sum. When they saw the money, they were even more motivated. When Gu Yundong entered the courtyard, someone immediately saw her. "Boss, why are you here?" "It's the holidays tomorrow, so I have to give you guys New Year's goods so that everyone can have a good New Year." Gu Yundong smiled. Everyone was diligent, and she was happy to distribute the New Year goods. Everyone was stunned. They stopped what they were doing and looked at her in surprise. There's New Year's goods." "That's right. Why is it so good? We've been paid and you're still giving out New Year goods?" As he spoke, Father Tong had already pushed the cart in. Seeing that it was filled with many things, everyone present could not help but gasp. It was one thing to give out New Year goods, but why did she give out so many? Everyone became excited and couldn't help but glance at the cart. This was especially true for people from poor families. Although they received a month's salary, their families had many urgent needs. How could they have the ability to buy anything good? They wished they could come to work during the new year and show off their hard work. That way, the Gu family would recruit them again. Gu Yundong walked to a step in the Lu family's courtyard. Unfortunately, she was still growing. Even if she stood on the step, she would only be looked at from above. She could not help but tiptoe a little. After a while, she gave up and said as if nothing had happened, "Everyone has worked hard recently. It's the new year, so it's only right to give out some rewards. Let's be happy together." Everyone immediately beamed with joy. They had just seen that there were many good things on it. They were better than what they had bought themselves. They had also heard about bosses who gave out New Year goods, but the things those people gave were not worth much. What's more, they were short-term workers. After the new year, they would rest for a while. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Next, those whose names I call, come forward and receive them one by one. I don't want to miss out on anyone. All right, someone replied. Then, as if he had thought of something, he hurriedly said, I'll go wash my hands. I'll be back soon. Chapter 229. Come back. Seeing this, the others also looked at their sticky and black hands and quickly turned to run. Gu Yundong was carrying the first batch of New Year goods. Before she could hand it over, everyone in front of her had already run away. Father Tong, who was standing behind her, held back his laughter. He simply lowered his head and began to organize the things on the cart, looking very busy. Gu Yundong was speechless. She pretended that nothing had happened. Soon, the person who went out ran back and stood in front of Gu Yundong, scratching his head and laughing. Gu Yundong was also helpless. She held cloth in her left hand and pork in her right. Then, she started to call out names. Zhuangzi, 2 caddies of pork, half a caddy of brown sugar, and half a piece of cloth. The man called Zhuangzi was so excited that his eyes turned red. He stretched out his trembling hands and took it over after a long time. The next moment, he wiped his eyes fiercely. Boss, thank you. Thank you. His family didn't even have a new set of clothes for the new year. Now that they had cloth, he could finally make a full set for his wife and children. They could also eat meat. Gu Yundong smiled and said deliberately, after receiving the New Year's goods, you have to work hard. You will only rest tomorrow. Zhuangzi nodded repeatedly. Yes, I'll definitely do my best. I'll go to work now. He carefully placed the things in a clean basket at the side and immediately went to tidy up the sugarcane in high spirits. Gu Yundong did not stop him and continued to call the next person's name. Su Huar. I'm here. Gu Yundong handed the things to her. Like Zhuangzi, she immediately put them down and went to work. One by one, their names were called over. After receiving the gifts one by one, they were the same as the previous person. Soon, most of the items on the cart were distributed. Gu Yundong looked at their satisfied and excited expressions. She smiled and left with Father Tong. There was still the Sure couple left. She carried the gifts over. Now, the Sure couple was helping her manage the orchard. Because the 30 acres of sugarcane had just been planted, there were not many things to do. The other 50 acres of land in the neighboring village had also begun to be sorted out. When spring came, they would plant fruits. The Sure couple was busy with the sugarcane fields, so they found Gaoxing's father, Zhao Zhu, to help with the fields in the neighboring village. Gu Yundong brought an extra batch of New Year goods and asked Sure Dashan to give it to Zhao Zhu. As for Zhenggang and Zhuangzi, they were the same. The Sure family had a good New Year this year. The 3 members of the family worked for Gu Yundong. Just the meat alone was 6 caddies. If they couldn't finish it, they would marinate it. The surrounding neighbors were envious. In the past, the Sure family was the poorest family in their area. Unexpectedly, they could not even finish eating meat. However, it was also because of this that everyone in the village knew that working in the Gu family's workshop would earn them extra things for the new year. All of them rubbed their palms together, thinking that they would definitely fight for it the next time the Gu family recruited workers. Qin Wenjing and the Lu family were also given New Year goods. After the New Year's goods were distributed, the workshop temporarily stopped work and the shop was closed. The next day was New Year's Eve. Gu Yundong prepared everyone's red packets and even went to the county to buy firecrackers and fireworks. She was waiting for them to be lit at night. The entire village was very lively on New Year's Eve. Many people would stay up through the night for the new year. As soon as it was dark, the firecrackers in the village crackled. After this house was finished, there was the next one. There was almost no break in between. Xingjia of the Zheng family also brought his younger siblings out to set off firecrackers. He even greeted Gu Yundong when he saw her. The three children's faces were red. In the past, their families were poor. Although they had firecrackers, they could only buy a small batch. This year, they had bought a large bunch of firecrackers. Yundong handed the long wooden stick to Shao Qingyuan and stood beside Yunshu. The two children were jumping around, and it was unknown what they were saying. They could not be heard at all amidst the firecrackers. After a while, the firecrackers were finished. Yundong then took out the fireworks. The young lady was very bold. Sure enough, she took the lighter and lit it. However, after touching it, she immediately ran back and hid in Yundong's arms without looking. There was no movement for a long time. The young lady raised her head slightly and turned to look. Yunshu, who was at the side, held his belly and laughed. Ha 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 ha, it wasn't lit at all. In the end, it was Yunshu who lit it. The little fellow was very excited. With a bang, the fireworks shot into the sky and exploded into dazzling flames. Everyone looked up with satisfied smiles on their faces. The villagers who had already closed their doors ran to the courtyard to take a look when they heard the commotion. They would get better and better in the new year. Chapter 231, Receiving Red Packets for the New Year. After the fireworks, the Gu residence was about to close, so Shao Qingyuan went back. However, when he returned home, he went straight to the roof and lay on it to listen to the continuous firecrackers in the village. He turned his head slightly and looked at the Gu family. Unfortunately, the Gu family's house was built so high that he could only see the walls. Not daring to light a fire? Well, if you say you don't dare, so be it. On New Year's Eve, Shao Qingyuan lay on the roof and stayed up all night. Early in the morning on the first day of New Year, Madame Yang put on new clothes for the two children and sat happily in front of the dressing table to put on makeup. Previously, Yundong saw that her hands were so cold that they had frostbite, so she bought frostbite cream. Later on, she even bought face cream and lip cream to prevent her skin and lips from cracking and bleeding from the cold. Madame Yang had been using it for a while, and her face was much tenderer now. After cleaning up, the three of them left the room and ran to Yundong's room to pay their New Year greetings. Yundong held a red packet in his hand and gave one to each of them. After dinner, she gave each of the Tong family a red packet. Soon after, Dong Xiulan brought the three children to pay a New Year visit. Yundong had prepared a lot of dried fruits, pastries, and sweets. If anyone came, Yundong asked made sugar water, representing the sweetness of the new year. The Gu family was very lively. Many people came one after another. Shi Dashan's family of 4, Feng Daning's family of 4, as well as the people who worked in the workshop, the villagers who built her house, and other families who had connections to all came happily. Yunshu and his sister had already gone to the village chief's house to pay their New Year greetings. They were also looking for Niu Dan to play with. On the other hand, Shao Qingyuan hadn't come. At noon, when everyone was almost home, he came over to eat. This was what they had agreed on at that time. He would eat breakfast at the Zhang family's house and lunch and dinner at the Gu family's house. This way, he would not be alone for the new year. Yundong had also prepared a red packet for him. Unexpectedly, before he could take it out, Shao Qingyuan handed one to her. The two of them were stunned at the same time. Yundong blinked and heard Shao Qingyuan say, "I thought that auntie might not remember this, so I prepared it for you. You'll have a red packet for the new year too." Madame Yang really did not remember that. She had even happily accepted one. Yundong's eyes burned as she looked at the redness in her palm. Chapter 232, The Qian family's granny is here. On the second day of the new year, everyone started to visit their relatives. Dong Xiulan brought the children to her parents' house. Yundong did not have any relatives to visit, so she brought Madame Yang and the other two to the county school to wish Mr. Qin a happy new year. In the afternoon, they went to the Liu residence. Old Master Liu had a married eldest daughter who happened to be back, so they did not go out. On the third day of the new year, Yundong did not go out again. Zheng Gang brought his family over, and Zhao Zhu actually brought Gosheng over to pay New Year greetings. On the fourth day of the new year, an unexpected person came to the door. This person was wearing patched clothes and holding a walking stick. Her hair indicated that she was already half 100 years old, and she was trembling as she stood at the entrance and looked around. Father Tong almost thought that she was here to beg. After asking a few more questions, he found out that this old lady was old Madame Qian from the neighboring village. She said that she was here to return the money. However, when she reached the house and saw the imposing door, she was a little afraid. Her heart was beating like a drum, so she hesitated and did not dare to knock. Father Tong did not recognize this person and quickly went to report to Yundong. Yundong asked her to come in first. Seeing that the old lady was very cold, she quickly moved the brazier over to let her warm up. At this moment, she also remembered who the Qian family in the neighboring village was. It was the big Qian that she had caught with when he came to her house to be a thief with Zhuangzi and Hu Liang. Back then, when she asked the four of them to hand over 5 taels of silver, Hu Liang handed it over. Zhao Zhu's family was all right, and they gritted their teeth and handed it over. Zhuangzi's family handed over a little, and the rest was paid off. Only Big Qian. At that time, 3 of the 4 people's families had arrived, but no one from his family had come. Therefore, in the end, he left after writing an IOU. There was no news after he left. Later, when Zhuangzi became familiar with her, he told her that Big Qian had gone out to look for work. He only had one grandmother. She was old and clumsy. When Big Qian was born, he fell sick. His parents brought him to the county city to see a doctor. The county city was very chaotic that year. At that time, the county magistrate was not only afraid of death, but also extremely stupid. There was a fight in the city every other day. His parents were implicated and both died. In the end, Big Qian was brought back by a fellow villager. He even recovered from his illness. Rumors spread among the villagers in an instant. Chapter 233, Return the money. Not only did he fail, but he also had to pay 5 taels of silver. How could the Qian family have it? Actually, the old lady of the Qian family had also heard that something had happened to her grandson and rushed to Yongfu village. However, she walked slowly and met Big Qian halfway. The next day, he went out to look for work and never came back. Yundong had never thought of urging them to repay their debts. Although she had an IOU on hand, she did not write down the repayment date at that time. After knowing that Big Qian only had Grandma Qian at home, she would not go. Unexpectedly, Grandma Qian came to visit during the new year. The room was warm. Grandma Qian felt that her hands were not as cold as before, so she slowly took out a cloth bag. The cloth bag was spread out in her hand. She opened it layer by layer, slowly revealing the silver inside. Trembling, she placed the silver pieces on the table one by one and counted them as she did so. When she was done, she looked at Yundong. "Miss, this is the 5 taels of silver that we owe you. I've brought it all over." Yundong was speechless for a long time. Grandma Qian lowered her head and said in a low voice, "Big Qian is a good child. He just took a wrong turn in a moment of folly and won't do it again. He didn't want to default on this money." That day, he ran out to find work and only came back this morning. As soon as he arrived home, he said that he had earned the money he owed you. Now that he's tired and sleeping at home, I brought it over for you. Miss, I'm sorry. Please forgive him and don't blame him, okay? Yundong met her slightly turbid eyes and felt a lump in her throat. After a while, she said in a slightly hoarse voice, "Yes, I'll forgive him if he can change his ways." The wrinkles on Grandma Qian's face loosened, and she smiled until her eyes narrowed. All right. I'll go back now. After saying that, she took her walking stick and was about to leave. She did not even ask for the IOU. Yundong quickly helped her sit down. Granny Qian, there's no hurry to leave. It's the new year. How can you not even drink a glass of water when you come to my house? Come, this is sugar water. Try it. It's sweet. Miss, besides, Big Qian even gave me an IOU back then. I don't even know where I put it. I have to find it and return it to you, lest I can't explain it in the future, right? When Grandma Qian heard this, she remembered that there was such a thing. This time, it was not easy for her to leave. Yundong placed the walking stick aside and stuffed a warm cup into her hand. She subconsciously picked it up and took a sip. She was stunned. It was really sweet. It was different from the brown sugar she drank when she was young. Other than sweetness, there was no other taste. Yundong brought her soft pastries again, but the old man refused to eat them. At this moment, Yunshu and Yunka returned. She waved and asked them to coax Grandma Qian to eat. She turned around and returned to her room, quickly finding the IOU. She looked at the note in her hand and sighed slightly. She had to accept the 5 taels of silver. Since the guy had done it, he had to pay the price. If she saw that the other party was pitiful and let him go easily, then how could she manage the workshop and shop? When the other party did something wrong later, he would cry in front of her and complain. Then, her workshop would at most be at this size. However, she could not watch Grandma Qian go back just like that. Grandma Qian was a good person. She had never thought of giving this old woman a hard time. Moreover, to be able to earn 5 taels of silver in such a short period of time, Big Qian was clearly not too stupid. Chapter 234, Unexpected Person. When Yundong came out again, she had something in her hand. Grandma Qian, who was in the central room, was indeed coaxed by the 2 children to eat something. The smile on her face became brighter. Grandma Qian, this is the IOU. Take it back and let Big Qian burn it in the stove. Then, the debt between us will be written off. Grandma Qian took the note and opened the cloth bag. She carefully placed the note inside and covered it before putting it back into her arms. Then I'll leave now. She felt a little embarrassed after eating such good pastries. She quickly grabbed her walking stick and was about to leave. Yundong smiled. There's no hurry. There's still something here for you to bring back. Huh? Why are you giving something to me? When she narrowed her eyes and saw the cloth and meat in her hand, she widened her eyes in shock. This is for me? Why are you giving it to me? It's not just for you. Zhuangzi and Gaoxing's families also have it. They've also returned the money. She didn't mention the New Year goods that these 2 families were given for working for her. Did Grandma Qian think that the Gu family was kind enough to offer meat and cloth as a reward for returning the money? She was a little confused now, but the Shi family and the Zhao family had them. She thought that everyone had agreed. Yundong saw that her hand was trembling slightly, so she called Tong Shuitao over and handed her the things. Send Granny Qian back. All right. Tong Shuitao took the things and helped Grandma Qian away. Yundong did not turn around to get busy until they had completely walked out of the door. What she did not know was that not long after they left the door, Tong Shuitao squatted down and carried Grandma Qian away. The Qian family's matters were settled. After the 4th day of the new year, the workshop started work again on the 5th day of the new year. The villagers were very excited. They even went to the Lu family's courtyard early in the morning and started to clean up. Yundong also gave everyone a red packet for opening the business. It was not much. 10 copper coins per person was just a token to get good luck. The shop in the county city was also open. Zhuangzi had an especially comfortable new year. How should he put it? He ate well and had work to do. Most importantly, the relatives who used to look down on his family now had a hint of flattery in their words. Zhuangzi was very impatient with these people. In the past, he had never visited his relatives during the New Year. When something happened to his family, he had never seen these people reach out. They only made sarcastic remarks. In the past few years, the Shi couple would take Xian'er for a walk. After all, the two children were already grown. Chapter 235. Aunt Ku is here. When they saw another carriage drive into the village and ask for the Gu family's address, the villagers of Yongfu village were already numb. In any case, almost all the carriages entering the village were looking for the Gu family. However, the children in the village still skipped behind the carriage to join in the fun. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the Gu residence. A woman in plain clothes got out of the carriage. After the person handed the money to the coachman, the carriage turned around and left. The people behind the carriage suddenly realized that the carriage was rented. The woman stood at the Gu family's entrance and looked up at the imposing green brick-tiled house in front of her. She laughed and said in a low voice, "I knew that girl was capable. It's only been a while, but she actually has the money to build such a big house." Madame Cui did not know her. Seeing that she was standing at the door and did not enter, she could not help but take a step forward. "May I ask who you are looking for?" "Gu Yundong's house is here, right?" The woman retracted her gaze and asked with a smile. Madame Cui nodded. "Yes, this is the Gu family. May I ask who you are?" The woman was about to answer when the sound of a carriage rolling suddenly came from behind. A child shouted, "Gu Yunshu, you're back. Your relative is here." In the carriage, Gu Yunshu scratched his head. "Relative?" He opened the curtain of the carriage and looked outside. Coincidentally, the woman turned around and their eyes met. The woman smiled. Yes, the skinny and weak little fellow finally had some flesh on his face. He looked decent in his student uniform and was somewhat useful to Gu Yundong. Gu Yunshu's eyes lit up and he hurriedly wanted to jump down from the carriage. Father Tong was so frightened that he quickly hugged him and let him land steadily. The next moment, Gu Yunshu rushed towards the woman. "Aunt Ku, why are you here? When did you come? Have you eaten? Why don't you come in?" Aunt Ku hugged him and squatted down to pinch his little face. "I just came over. Did you come back from school? If I had known earlier, I would have let the carriage walk slower. Who knows, we might have bumped into each other on the way. I've been riding the carriage all day. I'm very tired. In order to reach your village before dark, the coachman worked so hard that my old bones almost scattered. I only ate 2 little buns on the way. I specially came to your house on an empty stomach and let your sister cook braised pork for me. Io, you're getting more and more beautiful. You look really energetic in these clothes. Have you been in school for a few days? How's the teacher of the school? Did any of your classmates bully you? How many friends have you made? Is the school very far away?" Chapter 237. Does Big Sister not want me anymore? Aunt Ku wiped her mouth and went straight to the point. "I came this time mainly because there's news from Dr. Song." Gu Yundong was shocked. Joy flashed across her face and she almost stood up in excitement. "Really? Where is he?" "In Qing'an Prefecture." "Qing'an Prefecture?" Gu Yundong was stunned. "Wasn't that, Aunt Ku, physician he from Huimin Medical Center told me. He still remembers your mother's condition." Physician Song went back to Xian'er Prefecture, but he only stayed for an hour to get some herbs before leaving. He said that he was going to Qing'an Prefecture. There's an important patient waiting for him there. Yundong clenched her fists tightly and trembled slightly. She looked at Madame Yang, who was still confused, and the hope in her heart grew. I received the news yesterday and came over early this morning. Dr. Song should have left yesterday. He probably has to stay in Qing'an Prefecture for a period of time. At the very least, he has to treat that important patient. What do you think now? Yundong slowly exhaled and held Madame Yang's hand with her fingers. The latter smiled and put her other hand on it. Yundong's voice was slow and firm. I'm going to Qing'an Prefecture, of course. Aunt Ke smiled and said, I think so too. Oh right, doctor, he said that he doesn't know the address of Dr. Song's patient. If you go to Qing'an Prefecture, you can go to Huimin Medical Center there. You should be able to find out Dr. Song's whereabouts. Yundong nodded. Okay. You previously said that your father agreed to meet you in Qing'an Prefecture. Since you're going over this time, are you going to ask about him? Yes. Yundong said, actually, I was thinking of going to Qing'an Prefecture after the Lantern Festival. I didn't expect you to send Dr. Song's message. Then I might as well set off early. There's no problem. Now that she had money, the workshop was stable, and she had a shop, there were servants at home who could take care of Madame Yang and the two children. Therefore, the matter of finding her father became urgent. After the Lantern Festival, she planned to make a trip to Qing'an Prefecture alone. But since Dr. Song was there, she had to bring Madame Yang along. Yunshu listened from the side and quickly understood. He immediately jumped up and asked, eldest sister, can mother's illness be cured and father be found? Yunka jumped as well. That's great, that's great. When Madame Yang heard the word father, she suddenly looked up, and her eyes lit up. Although Yundong also hoped that everything would go her way, she still had to tell the truth. I'm not sure yet. Of course, it's best if we can cure mother and find father, but nothing is absolute. I'm not sure yet. Yunshu was a little disappointed, but he quickly pulled himself together. But there's still hope, right? That's right. Shao Qingyuan, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, when do you plan to set off? There's no time to lose. Tomorrow it is. This time, even Aunt Ku was surprised. So fast? Yes, I'll make some arrangements in the morning and leave in the afternoon. The atmosphere in the central room suddenly became tense. Even Yunka seemed to realize something. She quietly pulled Yundong's hand and asked softly, eldest sister, are you leaving? Where are you going? What about me? Yundong carried her over. Eldest sister will be away for a while. Kiki, can you wait for eldest sister at home? The little girl burst into tears and hugged her neck tightly. Big sister, don't you want me anymore? Chapter 239. I'll only be relaxed with you around seeing her. Shao Qingyuan straightened his body slightly and walked towards her. After standing still, he said, I'll go with you. Yundong shook her head. No. If you encounter any danger on the way with nobody except Auntie, I can help. Yundong smiled. I brought my mother, brother, and sister here safely even when I was escaping from the wilderness. Now, my mother is the only one I'm taking. There's no problem. Shao Qingyuan frowned, but he didn't say anything. Yundong sighed. If you leave, what will happen to the family? What about the workshop? What about the shop? Aunt Ku is not from the village after all. She is not familiar with many things. The Tong family are servants. Although the people in the village don't say anything, there are many people who don't take them seriously. Mr. Qin lives in the county city. If anything happens, he won't be able to rush over in time. As long as you're here, I won't have anything to worry about. As long as you're here, I won't have anything to worry about. Shao Qingyuan's breathing suddenly stopped, and his heart raced. He lowered his eyes slightly and smiled bitterly. This person was always capable. He had already made up his mind to follow her no matter what she said, but he was convinced with just one sentence. He really wanted to seal her mouth. Okay. In the end, he agreed. I'll take care of your family and protect your siblings. Thank you. Yundong was telling the truth. With Shao Qingyuan's personality, identity, and ability, she was most assured to leave the family matters to him. Without Shao Qingyuan, she was not sure if she could go away so firmly. It was also at this moment that she realized that she seemed to have placed too much importance on him. Yundong could not help but rub the space between her eyebrows. She thought that she had to sort out some feelings and think them through. She took out a lot of banknotes for Shao Qingyuan. You have to accept this money this time. The orchard will require a lot of money to buy seedlings. Also, you have to come to the workshop to distribute the wages. After the Lantern Festival, you have to find Uncle Feng to build your own workshop. I've already drawn the specific blueprints. I'll give them to you later. You and Uncle Feng can discuss it. Yundong looked up. In short, you're in charge of everything here. Okay. As they were leaving tomorrow, Yundong spoke a lot. After Shao Qingyuan finished giving instructions, she went to the village chief Chen Liang's house and said that she would be away for a while. After that, she returned to pack her luggage. Actually, there wasn't much. There were only some clothes and shoes in her bag. The rest were all in her spatial storage. After going through everything, she returned to her room to sleep. The next morning, she got up early again and went to the kitchen to make a lot of good food. Then, she took some and put them into her spatial storage without anyone knowing. Her spatial storage could preserve freshness, so she could eat warm food on the way. She was not in a hurry to leave. After the two children got up and bade them farewell, she brought Madame Yang into the carriage under their reluctant gazes. Madame Yang didn't know what to do at first. It was only after Aunt Ku patiently explained it to her last night that she vaguely understood half of it. Tong Shuitao had wanted to follow them to take care of their clothes, food, accommodation, and transportation, but she was rejected by Yundong. She would definitely have to use the spatial storage a lot along the way. Forget it. Besides, she and Madame Yang were already missing from the team who processed white sugar. Every worker counted. When Yundong drove the carriage to the county city, the city gate had just opened. Chapter 240, Departure to Qing'an Prefecture. Yundong had to go to Qin Wenzheng's school. Qin Wenzheng also knew a little about her family, but he really did not know that Madame Yang's illness needed to be treated by Dr. Song. He knew Dr. Song. He had even met him back then and said a few words. That person was really capable. However, back then, the late emperor was muddle-headed. Physician Song was clearly skilled in medicine, but he was framed. If not for the fact that he had once saved the late Empress Dowager's life and the Empress Dowager begged for mercy, Imperial Physician Song might not even be able to keep his life. Unfortunately, ever since Imperial Physician Song left the capital, Qin Wenzheng did not know where he went. He heard that the emperor wanted to hire him back to the Imperial Hospital. So he was in Qing'an Prefecture? Qin Wenzheng asked Yundong to wait while he went to the study to write a letter. If you see Dr. Song, please help me pass this letter to him. Yunshu, don't worry and leave everything to me. I'll also watch over your family. Okay. Yundong received the letter and went to the Lu residence. She had met Old Master Lu a few times. Old Master Lu had imparted some business experience to her. Yundong was quite grateful to him. This time, she came over to bid farewell to Lu Wei so that he wouldn't complain later that she didn't treat him as a friend. At the same time, if Old Master Lu had any experience, he could give Shao Qingyuan some pointers. Yundong finally went to Gus. Zhuangzi was very happy to see her. He did not expect her to bring him such shocking news. When he heard that he should look for Shao Qingyuan if he had any problems in the future, he felt terrible. In the future, he would settle his own matters and try not to trouble others. After a whole circle, she had said everything she needed to say. Shao Qingyuan, Aunt Ku, Teacher Qin, and Old Master Lu were all reliable. She had nothing to worry about. Yundong took a deep breath. After getting into the carriage, she went straight to the city gate. However, this time, they did not go home after leaving the city gate. Instead, they went straight to Qing'an Prefecture. Madame Yang opened the curtains and saw an unfamiliar scene flying in front of her. She felt a little flustered. She quickly lifted the curtain and saw Yundong driving the carriage. She immediately calmed down. Yundong heard the commotion behind her and could not help but turn around. "What's wrong, mother?" Madame Yang shook her head slightly. "Nothing. I'll sit down immediately." Yundong smiled. "There's something to eat in the cabinet beside the carriage. If mother wants to eat it, you can take it yourself." Oh, okay." Madame Yang nodded repeatedly and carefully opened the cabinet beside her. There was sugar, preserved fruit, oranges, pastries, and a container with water in it. Madame Yang looked around and finally took a sip of water. She felt a little better and sat down obediently. She didn't know how long she had maintained this posture. After enduring it for a while, she finally couldn't help but ask, Dong, where are we going?" "Mother, do you still remember where father has repeatedly instructed us to meet?" Madame Yang knew this answer and said almost without thinking, "Qing'an Prefecture." "Yes, let's go to Qing'an Prefecture." The carriage drove very quickly. She did not stop at noon and only took out warm pancakes and buns from her space and handed them to Madame Yang. She had bought them in the county previously. There were 2 large bags. After Madame Yang finished eating, Yundong casually took a few bites. When the sky was about to turn dark, they finally arrived at their first stop. Chapter 241, Seeing Yundong's foolish smile. This was a small town with a small population. There were only 2 or 3 good inns in the town. Yundong chose a rather lively inn and she only booked an upper room. When she was out, she naturally had to stay with Madame Yang. The day before, she slept late and woke up early. After dinner, she fell asleep as soon as she touched the pillow. On the other hand, Madame Yang was a little unaccustomed with her eyes open. Shu and Kiki weren't around, but Dong was. It was fine. Madame Yang turned sideways. She did not move, afraid that she would disturb Yundong's rest. She just looked at her gently. Seeing that Yundong had kicked the blanket away, she hurriedly covered her again nervously. Yundong was a light sleeper when she was outside. She suddenly opened her eyes. Madame Yang immediately became helpless. "Did I wake you up? I just wanted to cover you with a blanket. You'll catch a cold." Yundong's expression immediately softened. She looked at the blanket on her body and said in a low voice, "It's okay. Go to sleep." "Okay." This time, Madame Yang obediently closed her eyes and tried her best to fall asleep. Yundong could not help but smile. She felt warm all over. Although her mother was innocent, she loved the children very much. She really hoped that they could successfully find Dr. Song this time and get him to treat her mother's illness. Her journey had been quite smooth. She hoped that this smoothness would continue. Yundong closed her eyes and fell asleep quietly. The next morning, the 2 of them got up early and set off again. It was a long journey from Yongfu village to Qing'an Prefecture, and it was impossible for the horse to speed up every day. Even if they could take it, the horse could not. When she left home, the 2 little guys reminded her repeatedly to take good care of Wind Chaser. Therefore, Yundong would be slow for a day if she rushed for 2 days. Dr. Song had only set off 2 days earlier than her. Qin Wenjing said that he was already old, so he definitely couldn't ride the carriage too quickly. Otherwise, he would fall sick. She should be able to make it. After 5 to 6 days, they were almost halfway through the journey. They would not always coincidentally encounter a town or county city and be able to stay in an inn. Sometimes, when it was dark and they happened to arrive at a village, they would stay here for the night. Just like this village called Fugueo Village. It was quite fitting to call it a rich village. This village was much better than Yongfu village. After all, the village was close to the official road and there were many guests coming and going. There were even people selling snacks at the entrance of the village.